Hello, everybody. Glad you're all here. We are going to have some fun tonight. Thanks, everybody, for already being in the chat. This is a brand new channel, so it's really cool to see a bunch of you in the chat right off the bat when we go live. That's awesome. We have a very special guest today. You guys may have seen me on his channel in the past. I've been there a few times, and we've had some really great exchanges. So I thought, since I'm always going on Patrick's show and talking about, feminism and all this kind of stuff on his show, why not have him on my channel and ask him some stuff about masculinity in the modern age? And I think this was a really well-timed stream because we've seen a bunch of crazy viral videos with like crazy gym girls, calling out guys for existing in the gym, basically, and a bunch of other like pop culture kind of things that I think go along with this really well. So let's get Patrick in here and see what he has to say. Hey, Patrick, how's it going?
Hey, Rachel, what's going on?
Not a whole lot. I'm super excited to have you on my channel for once. That's so cool.
Me too. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, and it's great to see all the familiar faces out in the live chat. God bless everybody out there. And as usual, I'm excited. We always have great energy. Everybody says, "Oh, you guys are so good together." So I'm excited to see where we go and what we talk about.
Yeah, now for once we can talk about the controversial stuff that's going to make everybody mad on my channel. So
Yeah.
I can deal with the angry comments this time. Because I think that these kind of topics can be pretty contentious for some people. And it
Right.
seems like no matter how generous you and I try to be to both sides, we will always get some people who are like, I feel like you're being unfair to the men, or I feel like you're being unfair to the single women, or
Right.
but that just it
All
kind
the
of comes
single
with the
ladies.
territory. And we don't mind. We don't mind if people disagree or whatever,
Right.
that's fine. But we do want to talk about these things because they are very relevant. Like I gotta ask you, because you're a gym bro, obviously. Everybody can
Mm-hmm.
see you and that you are spending a lot of time in the gym. I'm also like an old school gym rat, been lifting for 15 years. And the gym girl videos, these viral gym girl videos where girls are in the gym, they're usually doing some kind of glute workout, and they've got
Yep.
their camera and they've got their microphone at the ready. They're already
Oh
wearing
my
it,
gosh.
right? And they're dressed in the tiniest, most scantily clad outfits you could possibly find.
Right.
That is not what I wear at the gym, you guys. Aside from the fact that I am 42 and a mom and have kids, even if I was 21 and I had
Right.
abs and was perfect, I would not be in the gym in my scrunch booty shorts with
Right.
my sports bra bending over in front of everyone
Right.
repeatedly. But even in my gym, there's a lot of that, right? All the girls who are younger than me generally, and even some of them who are not older than me, and some of them who are much bigger than me. I don't know how else to
Yeah.
say it, okay?
No, I
This is Rachel's channel, so I'm just gonna talk how I talk.
Yep.
There's a lot of women who wear this garb, okay, regardless of size or age or anything else.
Mhm.
And they're doing, things like Romanian deadlifts or hip thrusts or
Right.
things where they're repeatedly bending over, and they put cameras specifically so that you can see whoever might be so unfortunate as to be behind them. And then they'll post this and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, look at this man. He's such a creep. He's looking at me. How dare he?" Right? When
Right.
most people are looking at that going, okay, you're wearing heavy makeup to the gym, you have your hair done, you've got cameras, you've got special lighting, you've got your little tiny outfit, and you're bending over in front of people like repeatedly. And a lot of
Right.
times, honestly, the poor man in the video is just like trying to get to his machine, or just sees that she has this whole setup going on and maybe glances over, and the girl will be like, "Oh my gosh, do you see what we deal with? Do you see what we deal with?" And I've noticed just in the last week that like the men who I usually see at my gym, who might be asking me like, "Oh, hey, are you using this other cable stack behind you?" They're like scared to talk to me. They're like terrified to ask a woman a question or talk to a woman in the gym, even though I'm just in like a Metallica t-shirt and some sweatpants. They're just like, uh, am I going to be on the internet and have my life ruined if I
Right.
ask you if I can work a set in, or if you're done with this machine? So I think insane. But what do you think? What was your take on this
Right.
controversy of gym girls?
Well, yeah, it certainly seems to be spreading all around the internet. I saw, Joey Swole sort of really started commenting on this stuff, but I saw it this morning. This morning I had a great chest day, my favorite day, going there to get a pump. And there's a girl, and she's with a friend who's wearing leggings and a big hoodie, and it's kind of baggy, totally fine. But then the other girl, almost basically a tube top, her sports bra, and then extremely small shorts. And every time she got done doing, whether it was again Romanians or hip thrust, I think she was doing some squats, she would go into the corner of the mirror and just like look at her butt. And guys do this too, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. So we do this too. And I wear a stringer when I work out, because when I get pumped up, I like to see myself getting pumped up. But there can also, you can cross a threshold into extreme vanity. But some of the girls I've seen at the gym, I mean, it's basically like boy shorts. And I mean, like the type of underwear that are called
Yes.
boy shorts. And they will wear that and work out. I mean, it's basically, there's like, you can totally see her ass cheeks are hanging out of it. This is not like even leggings. Like, this is like, what? This is basically underwear.
Yes.
And it's a real phenomenon. And the one on this, on going around the interwebs, one of the chicks was an OnlyFan, and she was
Yes.
talking about how, oh my gosh, I can't believe this creep. He's asking me. I think it was the one where she already had a microphone already on her sports bra, and
Yeah.
all he did was come and ask her if she needed help putting weight on her bar. She was doing hip thrusts. And turns out, and she's like, I can't believe I'm objectified to these guys, and they look at me like an object. And then people did research and find out, oh no, you have an OnlyFans, and your subscription membership is $9.99. So people can literally just see your body for a $9.99 a month membership.
Right.
And I think it's part of the problem is just the social media, that women, naturally can have leverage in regards to attention, because there's so many men who are simps, which I'm sure we're going to get into in regards to masculinity and how we sort of alter this tragic dynamic in our society. But there's just so many simps that gives girls so much attention online through photos, through selfies, through working out, all this stuff. And so they have these elevated, inflated opinions of themselves. And it's totally weird about the sexual dynamics. Same with the gym. When I go there, I do not want to talk to anybody. I want to put in, unfortunately, Lord have mercy, I do not listen to, ortho chants yet in the gym. I listen to like hardcore trap music. So,
We're gonna have
Lord
to
have
compare
mercy on me, but I'm just
playlists
not
one of
there
these
yet.
days.
I get into like this really hardcore mentality of, I just want to throw weight around. I want to get pumped up. And last thing I want is some chick trying to bend over in front of me, when that's not what I'm there for. I'm literally there to get into like a mentality where I'm going to conquer the world, basically.
Yeah, yeah. And I have to say, like, for myself, if you guys don't know, because this is a little bit of getting to know Rach on her own channel. It's only my, like, what, third episode or something. Um, I've been lifting for a long time, and I did powerlifting. I did bodybuilding for a while, then I did a powerlifting phase for a couple years, decided that I didn't like getting injured. Because even if you do powerlifting correctly, it's really hard on your body. And I did a little bit of CrossFit, but never like exclusively. And then I kind of went back to classic, like old school bodybuilding because I love it. It's one of my favorite things. It's like my therapy. It's
Mm-hmm.
what keeps me healthy. And for me, it's the same thing you said. It's like a battle the world mindset. Like
Yeah.
all of my bullshit in life, I can go in the gym and just like push myself and see what I'm made of and see what I can do. And it just makes you feel like, it reminds you that you're pretty tough and you can handle
Right.
whatever gets thrown at you in life, And that's been a huge thing for me mentally as a girl. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because number one, I have to say, 15 years in the gym, I can't remember. Like I was sitting there trying to remember. I can't remember a time when a man has been like blatantly inappropriate to me in the gym. I've I've maybe gotten hit on once, maybe twice. There might be a time I don't remember. Maybe I'm just not trying hard enough because I'm not wearing the booty shorts and I'm not making myself available. But like it's just not a problem I've run into. Men have been super respectful in the gym, like for all my years being in many different kinds of gyms. I've just never had a problem. So this idea that there's this rampant, like, oh my gosh, we as women just can't go into the gym without being harassed and objectified is totally not my experience at all. So either these girls are doing something to invite that, which I know is a controversial thing to say in this day and age, but I
Right.
don't care.
Right. Yeah,
Or
that is a controversial thing to say.
they're kind of inventing something that's not really there.
Right.
That's
Well, I
just
think
based
it's
on my
part of
opinion.
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's part of this general narrative about the scariness and the the horrible nature of men, and so it like they can get attention not only due to the way they look or what they're doing, but look how bad men are. Men are just outrageous. They're terrible, and it goes with this feminist trope about how men are just grungy and they're down here and they're so primitive and they're animalistic. But look,
Yes.
me dressing like a harlot and bending over literally in front of everybody, that's just how I am. I'm trying to better myself, guys. And it's just such an easy way to like demean men and then elevate oneself. And again, I see it all the time. I really do.
Yeah, I do too. And like as a mom, I'm looking at these girls and like I'm twice their age, most of them. So I would say to them, I'd be like, "What the hell are you doing? Like, why behave this way?" And I know the reason. The reason, as I tell people all the time, is because women's number one currency is attention,
Right.
right? And
Yep.
they can say they're not looking for that kind of attention and everything else, but it's like, okay, it's certainly not for any practical purpose that you need false eyelashes, full studio makeup, a,
Yep.
a sports bra with like a push-up bra under it, with like the
Right.
tiny booty shorts that have you guys have seen them, the pants and the shorts that have the scrunch butt, and then they've got like a shadowed
Yes.
carved out portion under the glutes to try to make them look better. And it's
Right.
like, we know why you're wearing that. Let's
Right.
be honest about it. I'm so tired of the dishonesty of like pretending that innocent women are just going about their business and these animalistic, insatiable, predatory men are just
Right.
oh, they have to be stopped, you know. And I would even hear some of this kind of rhetoric repeated, and I knew it was being repeated when my daughters were in high school and their friends would come over, my older two. I knew it was repeated because I've heard the specific phrase used multiple times where they would complain about, say, dress codes in school, and they would say,
Mhm.
why did they have to put a limit on what I'm wearing? Teach the boys not to look at me.
Well,
And it's
why are
like,
you wearing it in the first place?
well, you know, they'd want to wear like the little tiny the tank tops that are basically what used to be an undershirt, right? It's like a
Mhm.
little
Right,
tiny
right, right.
camisole with the
Yep, yep,
bra
yep.
straps showing. And they want to wear these teeny tiny shorts, the Daisy Duke shorts that go right up, you know, sometimes up over your butt cheek so that the
Right,
bottom of the butt cheek is hanging out. There was a girl
right.
on the treadmill in front of me at the gym the other day running in those. And she was
Unreal.
she had a lot going on back there, I'll tell you what. And it was like hard for me not to look. I'm a woman and I was just like, where do I look?
Exactly.
I'm like looking up. I'm trying to look at my
And that's
phone. I'm
that's
watching.
the reality of it too. It's just as men, even again, I literally do not go to the gym. I am happily with a beautiful Orthodox girl, but I do not go to the gym to look at girls or talk to any girls. But my God, some of the things they wear, you literally cannot not look because
Yeah.
they're hardly wearing anything. And
It's the same effect as if they came to the gym in like a clown outfit. Of course you would look at them because they're not dressed like a normal person, right? That's
right,
not how normal people just dress in the world. You wouldn't wear that to work, you wouldn't wear that to church, you wouldn't wear it to your grandma's house, you wouldn't wear it to a nice restaurant.
right,
So, why do you think that when you wear it to the gym, no one's going to notice? Of course they know. You wouldn't buy pants that, and these things are like $70 leggings, $100 leggings.
right,
You're investing in those specifically because they make your butt look a certain way, and
right,
they're very eye catching, and that is the point. So let's
right.
just stop being so dishonest, ladies, about why we do things. And this whole I dress for me. I wear all the makeup for me, and I wear all the revealing outfits for me so that I can feel confident. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. And I'm a woman who's past that age and has a little wisdom. So I'm just going to straight up tell you, no, you don't. We all know why you wear it. And, if you were wearing it and being more honest about it, that would even be a different conversation. But to pretend that the men are just these insatiable predators just waiting to exploit you and assault you
Right.
because you're wearing, no. So that's nonsense. And I think it's a really good representation of where the gender relations are in our society right now,
Right.
where, like you said, it's this thing where we've created a narrative, not we as in me,
Right.
y'all
Right.
feminists out there have created a narrative that men are inherently dangerous, predatory, exploitative, they are animalistic, they only want one thing, right?
Right.
And then you'll do things that create a self-fulfilling prophecy where you can go, see.
Yeah.
And I've had
Exactly.
exchanges with these gals on Twitter where they're like, they have an OnlyFans. They'll literally have a picture, like their profile picture will be of like their legs spread apart with like a coffee cup in the middle of it, right? Just
Right.
barely covering something. And then all their tweeting will be about like feminist theory and how men are evil and terrible and can't be trusted. And it's just like
Yeah.
they want to have it both ways. And what this does
Exactly.
is it kind of creates two choices for men. Either they're going to try to do what you and my husband do, which is basically like, I'm going to pretty much like, unless it's a public interaction that's I know is completely safe and appropriate where I won't be accused, then I might give you very limited contact if I need to. Aside from that, I'm not going to even interact because I'm just not going to play these games.
Right.
Or they feel like simping is the better thing, where it's like, well, I guess I'll just completely capitulate and I'll pay the $10 a month and I'll tell her that she's pretty and buy her bath water for $100 for a
Oh
little
my
while of it.
gosh.
It's creating
Right.
this crazy like separation, and it's fueling things like MGTOW. So I want to talk a little bit about masculinity and what it looks like now, because 200 years ago, when men still had to chop down trees to build barns, and there was a lot of manual labor and everything wasn't automated and mechanized yet, and we weren't in this digital age where brute force and like labor are no longer a part of most people's everyday lives. Where do we place masculinity for men in society? Like, what's the proper way to be masculine, do
Right.
you think?
Well, the metaphor I always use is like men are the castle walls and women or children are the jewels inside. And so men historically established boundaries. Who went to war? Men. Why did they go to war? To establish boundaries. Boundaries of nation states, boundaries of their tradition, boundaries of authority. And so men establish boundaries, and traditionally women and children follow and can operate within those boundaries. And really that's why then women can be overly emotional. They can be who they really are, the nurturing woman, the feminine woman inside boundaries in which she's protected. And so as we look at our society, men, what boundaries does the average Western man uphold anymore? And he doesn't, because he's crossing all the boundaries by watching the pornography, by participating in the degeneracy of the world. And so you look as those men, and again, using the analogy, the metaphor of the castle walls, as the castle walls have fallen down, we have trans women then competing with women. So who's actually unsafe? The children and the women. So you look at
Yes.
the Western world, who's the most unsafe in our society? It's not the men. Yeah, they're a bunch of simps and they're weak, but they're not the ones that are most vulnerable. The women and the children are the most. What did we just see recently? That Leah Thompson, the male female swimmer, that he was competing against the University of Kentucky, and he just dropped trowel right there in the female locker room. So it's all a bunch of women, and they said, and then one of the Kentucky girls was like, it was disgusting. This 6'4" again woman, Leah Thomas, or Lisa, I don't even know what his name is, but he just drops his pants, and she's like, yeah, he just exposed himself to us and just watched all of us girls get naked and change, and he has to be in our locker room because transgenderism. You look at the black dude that just won like the college track meet, and it's just a black dude with long braided hair, and now he's a woman. And so now swim meets, track meets, all the men, trans women, are setting all the standards. Why? Because men are different than women. We're built to work and to fight. Women aren't built that way. They don't have the same muscular, they don't have the same skeletal stature. All these things are different because the roles are different. Women are there to nurture and to nurture life, to give birth. And so you see, I was talking recently about, you look at the fall of Adam and Eve, and what are the consequences? Women then have to deal with the birth pangs, and men have to labor. And you look at modern society, so the men have to work. They're going to be stronger and bigger. Well, the men aren't working. They're becoming more femboys, soy femboys. They're sucking the teat of the state or the government or whatever it is. And then the women aren't even having children. So it's like this unnatural avoidance of the way in which we have to redeem our own salvation by dealing with the way that the fall has altered reality itself. And so masculinity, it's at an all-time low in the history of the Western world, and that's part due to guilt. You can look at the World War II in the 20th century, World War I, World War II has, and then slavery, all this stuff. They keep trying to guilt trip the Western man and to basically just give up. And there's nothing worthy for you to fight for. And that's partly of the rootlessness of not having a connection back to God and a tradition. And so what is the tradition of the Western world? It's really just materialism and hedonism for the last 70, 80 years.
Yep. Yeah. Andrew was just talking about that a couple days ago I don't know who he was talking to, but I was overhearing the conversation, and he was saying the same thing, that there's really not, what's the incentive for birth rates to go up? Because now in the modern era, people just see children as a net drain on resources, and they don't get anything back from them. And what exactly, so like, we're constantly in battles, even on the right wing or like the more conservative side, you would say, with different factions who disagree about what the problem is. And masculinity comes up. So there are people like Nick Fuentes who have a big following of young guys. And you and I both, and my husband, would agree that the stuff he promotes, the things he says, even the jokes he makes and stuff like that, these are not things that are conducive to masculinity at all.
No,
now, in the past, he would talk about traditional family and all of these sort of things. And then when I started doing the work that I'm doing now, at first they kind of liked me. And then it became, she's horrible. We can't stand her because if she wasn't a feminist, she wouldn't be on the internet. So this is a thing that you'll see. Like, I wanted to talk to you about the trad right and their ideas about masculinity, because I see them almost going in like a Islamic extremist direction, right? It's like an overreaction to feminism where they want no women on the internet, no women out in public, no school or education for women, and they want you in a burqa. Right. And I know some of that is hyperbole, but I have had interactions with some of these people where they really think that I must be a feminist if I'm talking to them. Right. And I'm like, son, you are 16 years old, right? You're not, for you to think that a 42-year-old mother of 5 would never have had something to say to you 200 years ago, you're wrong. Right. I would have still had a station in society where you would have been expected to be respectful to me. Absolutely. And if you had to interact with me in public, you'd have to be polite and things like that. Otherwise, my husband would have been able to knock you out. Now we can't do that anymore. So now I have 16-year-olds on the internet going, if you're not a feminist, why don't you log off and cook something? It's like, do you want only the feminists to have a voice? You want only feminists to be online, because they're going to be. They don't care what you think. They're going to have their OnlyFans, and they're going to talk about feminist theory, and they're going to make these gym videos. So do you want me to be here chiming in, or do you want me to log off and get back in the kitchen? And I have a joke where I'll say that I have written permission from my husband to be on the internet today. And so then they can't say
I've seen the document.
Yeah. Yes. Patrick has seen it. He actually got a written permission from Andrew the first time that I went on a stream with him, saying that I was allowed. But I wonder what you think about like the more extreme elements of, these tradcath younger guys who are almost overreacting to feminism and what they think masculinity is.
So there's a few points I want to make with that. The first one, in regards, you brought up Islam. And you look at a lot of the tradcasts or the traditional right wing, and honestly, I think one of the reasons why Islam is appealing, and there's multiple reasons, we can get into all of it, but is that it has established those boundaries and it maintains those boundaries. And these guys are too weak to do it themselves. So, for example, in a relationship, I've been looking pursuing a wife for a while, and I am the one that's very quick to end it, especially if they start transgressing or I see behavioral patterns or things that I don't appreciate and that I want in a wife. Therefore, I can't be a simp. Like, I have to have a purpose. I have to have a direction in my life. I have to be confident at something. You know, masculinity is not tied to the gym. The gym is certainly one attribute that can help, especially produce more testosterone, because face it, testosterone is absolutely at a critical level, especially in the Western world. Men are producing, I think it's 40-50% less testosterone than they were historically just 60 years ago. So this is major. I mean, we talk about female infertility due to the birth control. Let's talk about male infertility,
Yeah.
because they don't do anything for their body to actually produce testosterone. Testosterone is what differentiates men from women. We're all
Yes.
XX in the embryo. XY, the male, is a differentiation from the female. We're all female, but those who become male are differentiated, and it's due to the exposure to certain hormones. So testosterone is essential. And I think for some of these trad cats, it's like they really don't have the masculinity and the willpower to tell women no. And
Right.
that, no, that's not for me, and I'm not going to deal with it. So when I'm in a relationship, I have certain expectations. I want a woman to have certain expectations for me too. That's absolutely fine. I want to be able to live up to the masculine role that I'm supposed to be. So again, my girlfriend, I want her to go to the gym. I want her to work out and do squats and hit upper body and do her hip thrust. That's fine. But what are you wearing? No, I don't
Right.
like that. No, you need to wear this, cover yourself up. That's for me. Your body's for me. And so I make that explicit because men define boundaries. That's a boundary that I don't like crossed. That's my body. Her body's my body. And
Yes.
so that's just how I am. So that's me establishing the boundaries in my own life, which necessitate me to become more and more of a man. And so these trad casts, and let's be honest, I see it in the orthosphere too.
Yes.
And this is the
Mhm.
meanies that you do, people that are upset with Jay. And honestly, ortho Twitter is the absolute worst. It's a bunch of people who aren't competent, who have some followers, maybe a couple thousand or whatever, because they have little clever little retweets and stuff
Because
like that.
they're edgelords. They're like
Yeah.
ortho edgelords, right?
But they're weak and they're
Yeah,
pathetic, and they actually make orthodoxy look disgusting,
they
because I
do.
saw one, like, couple of guys going back and forth about how spooning is like haram and this shouldn't be allowed in as for ortho. What are you talking about? You guys can't even get a girlfriend. Like,
Right.
shut up. Like, what are you talking about? This is disgusting, and it really frustrated me. And I've gone back and forth with many of the more, again, I'll just say Jay, uh, Tristan, some of the more ortho content creators that I have an affinity towards and I'm personally
Yeah.
friends with. And there's a real problem, even with the orthosphere, of just weak-willed young men who want to use traditional Christianity as a baton to beat
Yes.
people with, because they themselves really don't have the masculinity to stand on their own 2 feet. So
Yeah.
therefore, they use orthodoxy, which for all intents and purposes, I absolutely believe is the real form, true church of Christ, the real form of Christianity. So they use it, and they'll debate theology and all this different stuff and about women this, women that, but they don't want to become a man. And therefore, you're not even on my same team. Maybe we go to the same church or different church, but dude, you're not helping in regards to the overall battle of culture itself, which
Right.
demands men become more masculine, more competent, more assertive in regards to a godly divine. Not that we're just, again, that's where we can get into it. It's a
Yes,
bit of
we
rambling,
will.
but we can't blame everything on women either. That
No.
is not orthodox, and that's not masculine. The more masculine thing is to blame it on men and ourselves.
Yeah, and so before we get into, like, how did we get all these young men who are this way, when you said, I prefer that my girlfriend go work out and stay in shape, and that's great, but I don't want her basically wearing underwear and bending over 50 times in front of people because that's for me. I know that for most women, and it's not even on purpose, but for most modern women, just even hearing that said triggers in their head because of programming. Oh, that's abuse. He's possessive, right? He's trying to control a woman by saying that, right? So let's talk a little bit about, like, proper masculinity and how this idea that anytime a man says no or puts down a boundary, it's abuse. And this is something that drives me crazy. My husband gets accused of it all the time. People who don't like what we say will say things like, oh, we're in an abusive marriage, or it must be terrible to be Rachel because Andrew must be so awful and controlling and overbearing. And it's not like that at all. It's
Right.
like our day-to-day lives, nothing like that at all. But we both have very clear expectations for each other that we both think are reasonable and that have kept our marriage together. So
Right.
no, he doesn't, like, if I was wearing a super inappropriate outfit and like, I'm going to the gym, he'd be like, really? I don't think so. But at the same time, if he was like going out to, he leaves for work and he's like, oh, I'm going to have lunch with Susie from the office today, I'd be like, no, you're not. And he doesn't, right? So, and because of the way that modern programming in the culture works, that women have been beat over the head for decades with this idea that a man simply not worshiping your every move is abuse and an effort to control, and every man is a narcissist. You hear this. Every girl on YouTube who's gone through a breakup will tell you that her ex-boyfriend is a narcissist, right?
Yeah, that's
And
true.
so if the man doesn't just give you whatever you want, if he has any boundaries at all, most women have a knee-jerk reaction that that is abusive, or that it's exploitative, or that it's possessive, when I think that this is like the proper way to maintain a marriage. My
Right.
husband has a policy. He kind of follows the Mike Pence rule. He doesn't go to lunch or dinner with other women
Right.
unless I'm there, or
Right.
unless it's in a group. Even if it's like, if he were to have a female boss for some reason, he never has, but let's just say he did. She said, we're going to lunch together. He'd be like, no, I'm not going to do that. Now we can do like a team lunch, or, your husband and my wife can be there or something like that. There'd be some other way. Otherwise, we can just exchange emails, have a regular at work meeting, whatever. But I'm not
Right.
going to be somewhere. And there's a couple of reasons. One is respect to me, right? The first one is respect to me so that I don't have to worry or even think. He doesn't even want me to have those things cross my mind of like, what's going on there? Is it appropriate? Should I be suspicious? He's like, I don't even want you to have to go there mentally.
Right.
But number two, there's a lot of situations where if he were alone with a woman, she could accuse him of anything and there would be no witnesses, and it would be her word against his word. And
Exactly.
his
That's what I was
whole
gonna say. The Me
entire
Too movement gives the woman all the leverage in those
Yes.
situations.
Yes. So even if he did nothing, and this happened to him when he was young. He was in a situation where a woman made an advance on him which he rejected, and then she went and told everybody that he had tried to, like, assault her or something like that. And I think this happens to a lot of guys. A lot of
Mhm.
guys where for whatever reason they're alone with some girl, she makes a move, he turns her down, and suddenly she's telling the story like the flipped way because they're
Right.
embarrassed or whatever, right?
Right.
So to me, that's just an appropriate thing for him to do. It's an appropriate policy for him to have. So why then would it be inappropriate for him to say, look, there's no just like there's no practical reason for me to be alone with other women, there's no practical
Right.
reason for you to be out in public dressed like you're on an OnlyFans.
Right.
So where do we think like this all got so mixed up where women just think that any man having boundaries is abuse, when really, wouldn't you say it's actually a sign that the man cares? Or like,
Right.
where's that line? How do we talk to women about that now?
Well, that yeah, how do we talk to women about that's a tricky question. But from my own experience is I found, again, now I'm dating, or was dating. I'm no longer dating. Again, I have the girl I'd like to propose to this year. So hopefully I'll be, God willing, be getting married. But I found that most of the women actually like the fact that I have the ability to say no and turn away, because
Yeah.
it shows that they have no power over me, where women naturally just lose respect for a simp. And it
Yes.
perpetuates the feminist mentality of the weakness and the degeneracy of men. So you're never going to win a woman over by being a simp, because
Yeah.
she's always going to be. That's why women like, the bad boy. Now, I'm not saying they do,
Right.
but the
Right.
reason why they like the bad boys is because he's already sort of existentially pushing in his own direction. He's kind of, establishing his own authority. And so women don't like men that are weak and that are especially totally led by sex. And you
Yes.
can watch even pagan films like The Northman, when the king comes back and he's been secretly stabbed and he's getting ready to die and he's got to initiate a son. The wife, who turns out to be cheating on him, wants to sleep with him. And he says, no, no, I'm getting ready to go to battle. I can't sleep. I cannot spill my seed because it makes me weaker. And so men need to think about that. The more you spill your seed, the weaker you are. Literally, the weaker you become. Literally, I did a whole stream with Dr. Michael Moeller
Yeah.
on testosterone. That you can, if you maintain your seed for a whole month, you will literally go up 100 points testosterone, free test in
Yeah.
your body.
Yeah, and
So
I love what you just said about, because this is something I think so many of the modern women I've talked to find themselves in this predicament. We're raised in the go girl culture where we're told, you don't need no man. You don't let him tell you what to do. He doesn't get to tell you what you get to wear. He doesn't get to say this. He doesn't get to do that. You don't ever let a man tell you nothing, right? We're raised with this attitude. It's in the music, it's in the movies, it's in the TV shows. You hear it from your divorced mom and your wine aunts and all these people, right? So you're just bombarded with this messaging as a girl growing up. You find a guy you're attracted to, and you're probably attracted to him because there was some sort of masculinity there,
right.
right? But then the programmed part of your brain, the minute he tries to lay down a boundary, and I say this because when I was young, this was me, okay? The part of your brain that's programmed says, immediately react, right? If he puts down a boundary, you better tell him, you better tell him, I'm going to do what I want. And you can't tell me what to do. And you can't tell me what to wear. And who do you think you are? And I'm a strong, independent woman. And so your natural, like, knee jerk reaction is to push back anytime a man says no, or lays down a boundary, or says, here's where I draw the line on something. But here's the paradox. If the man does that, if he continually submits to you over and over and over, and he always just kind of goes, fine, I'll just do whatever you want, you will lose interest in him. Your ovaries
Absolutely.
will shrivel up and retreat, and suddenly you're not happy. You're not interested in him anymore. You don't have that like longing for him anymore. And then women do one of two things. Either they look for that elsewhere and they end up cheating,
Right.
or the relationship just dies and it fades away, right?
Right.
So women are screwing themselves over when they think that constantly doing the strong girl routine and pushing back on every single boundary. I know you feel like that, ladies. I even still now to this day, there are times when Andrew will be like, look, just no to this thing, or I'm not going to bend on this thing. And I'll be like, like I will be mad for a minute. But then what happens is it always turns out after I like go calm down or think it over or whatever, he's right. Or maybe I don't even agree. And then later it's like, oh man, I'm really glad I trusted his judgment on that and didn't just like fight him on it.
Right.
And every time that I've trusted in him, and because I had a realization, there was a realization early in my relationship with him where,
Let's hear about this epiphany.
yes, I can remember the moment because we had this huge fight. It was like we were probably going to break up. And I'm in the shower and I'm thinking, God, why can't I make this work? Because I love him so much and I think he's the guy for me and I can't imagine life without him. And like, I'd already been through one terrible divorce and like, what's the thing? And I thought to myself, well, it could be that it's just all the men are bad, or it could be there's something I'm doing, right?
Right.
That could be the problem. And I kind of asked myself, like, do you want to have an intact family and a good marriage, or do you want to be right? So think about what the problem is. And as I thought about it, I realized, oh, I want a strong, capable man I can count on, that I can trust his judgment, that if there's an emergency or a problem that like I feel like I don't know what to do, or I can't handle it, or something is wrong, that I trust him to come in and handle the situation. Because I'm sorry, I don't care what a strong, independent woman you are. There's situations like that in life, and none of us
Right.
is an island and we can't handle everything ourselves. So I kind of said to myself, do you want a man that you can trust his judgment, that he's capable, that he can handle things, that he doesn't need me to hold his hand and tell him, okay, it's time to get up and you have to go to work and we have to pay the bills. We can't just spend the money on video games and weed. Like, I
Right.
kind of realized, oh, I have to pick one. I can't have a guy that I can trust to be an adult and be responsible and help me out through life and help me raise kids, if I'm going to step on his dick all the time, because he won't
Right.
put up with that. That type of man won't tolerate that from me, right?
Right.
But if I want that type of man, then I have to chill and defer to him. Otherwise, here's
Right.
what I'm going to end up with. What I'll end up with, if I want a man who's going to just like defer to my will every time, and that all I have to do is throw a little hissy fit and he's just going to go, okay, fine, we'll do it your way, then the kind of guy I'm going to get is going to be laying on the couch smoking pot all day, playing video
Yep.
games with his friends. He's going to have a shit credit score. He's not going to be a good dad. He's going to be going from job to job to job and never get anywhere. And I'm going to have all the responsibility on me, and I'm going to have to be the man.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And that was my experience, right? I either had that kind of loser guy, which I wasn't happy with, or I had a guy that was super capable, really competent, really self-assured, and kind of had the swag that we all find attractive as women, and was masculine. But there were going to be times where he was going to tell me no.
Right.
So I was like, pick one. I said that to myself. I was like, pick one. And of course, I ended up picking Andrew, and we're together 15 years later, and it's great.
Glory
And
to God.
we've learned to make the dynamic work, right? Like he's learned that, because when we first met, he was used to girls who cried to get what they want.
Right.
Anytime they didn't get what they want, they would cry, right?
Yep.
So he had built up this wall where if he saw a woman cry, it was like instantly he just shut down. And now I'm not like a person who generally does that, not very manipulative or cry when I don't get what I want, but there'd be times when I was genuinely hurting and he couldn't see it because of that. So we both kind of had to adjust our
Yeah.
expectations. And he literally said to me once, sometimes I forget you're actually a woman, because I tend to be a little bit more logical, I would say, than a lot of women. And
Right.
I'm kind of a tomboy, you guys know. But yeah, he kind of had an epiphany of his own where he was like, oh, well, she is still a woman. That's why she's a good mom. That's why she's a
Right.
good wife. And
Right.
so I can't always treat her like one of the guys, because that's also not going to work.
Right.
Right.
And so for me, like in my relationship, it's not like I'm telling somebody what to do all the time. I
Right.
just have boundaries that I like and then I maintain. And then I plan on dying. If I'm in a relationship, if there's something to happen, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna be the first one to die. I'm there to protect, I'm there to provide, I'm there to try to lead in regards to God and tradition. And so this idea that a man who has boundaries and establish those boundaries, and if a girl starts saying, "Oh, you're trying to," great for me, that's a blessing. This is how, again, it took me 3 years to try to find a woman that I wanted to marry, but that's a blessing. Great, you can do what you want. You're not for me, and
Right.
almost inevitably, by being so quick to say, "Okay, then you're clearly not for me. I'm moving on." It makes them then want to reach back out and actually
Yes.
start chasing you. And it's like, no, I can't build a family with you. You're not the type of woman I need.
Yeah.
And that's where the men can regain their leverage. And that's the
Yes.
only way that we can reorient the society is you have to be a competent man that the woman actually wants to be with. And when things arise and she gets into those feminist worldviews and she starts giving you an ultimatum
Yeah.
about nonsense things, about how she wants to dress going to the gym, then she's not a woman that you can build a family with. Because for me, I'm putting it all on the table. I'm going to do everything that is expected of me as a man. All I want for you is just to be there to nurture my children, be there to love me unconditionally, respect me, whether we disagree or not, just be respectful. That's another
Right.
one we can get
Yeah.
into, is women don't understand the difference between me loving a woman and a woman respecting me as a
Yes.
mutual engagement that allows us to come together much more closely. And so if a woman is disrespectful to you, you got to end that immediately. And I know so many friends that have gotten into relationships, and maybe she is bad and she has a great body and she looks
Yeah.
good. And then when things are good, things are really good. But when
Yeah.
she gets an upset, it all goes to hell. It's like, bro, you let this happen. You've been submitting to this for 6 years, man. You thought this was going to change? Like,
Yes.
what? It's only gotten worse because you haven't said no. Again, men define boundaries, and women naturally like to be in a space where they feel comfortable. And that's one of the things that, I've noticed in my relationships is that girls would say, "I feel so safe. I feel like
Yeah.
I can be who I want to be. I can do," and that's exactly what I want. And if you respect me, then I feel safe. I don't feel
Yeah.
like you're going to go around behind my back or message other guys or do that type of stuff. So respect. And that's where a man being a little bit more rational is a good thing. Being more physical is a good thing. But a woman should be more emotional. That's I want a woman who's more emotional because I need help sometimes softening my heart. But
Yes.
sometimes I'm a little too cold to people. And so being with the hey, that's kind of rude. You shouldn't have been so mean to. Yeah, you're probably right. I
Yep.
need that. And so I need somebody like that. I don't need another man beside my side because I'm already a man. That's not going to help complete me. That's not going to help me move closer to God in the way that I want to be unified as one flesh with somebody.
Yeah,
And so,
I think that's exactly right. And I think because everybody thinks men and women are interchangeable widgets and they're like basically the same, just with different parts, like we're Mr. Potato Heads, this idea that people have, it totally misses the mark because women need affection and attention. Men need respect. And I did not understand that when I was young. I really didn't. And like Andrew literally taught me that because I've told the story about how when we first started dating, it was very early on, he said something I didn't like and I threw something at him. And he was like, "Really? Okay, I'm going home because I'm not going to be your boyfriend if you're going to throw stuff at me. That's ridiculous. Like, I don't date girls who act that way. So I'm going to go home and you can think about it and decide like what you want to do here."
right.
And he left. He didn't like listen to me complain or listen to me object. He just left. And at first I sat there and I was like, what a jerk. I can't, like my initial instinct again was to get sassy. And then I went,
Right.
and then like I said to myself, wait, I don't want to be the crazy girl who throws stuff at people. Like I don't want to be that, like then I felt embarrassed and a little humiliated and a little sorry for myself. And I felt bad. But I think the way we've trained women is that we train them instead of sitting with those uncomfortable feelings when they make a mistake or when they do something like that, instead of sitting with that discomfort and feeling the embarrassment and going, "Ah, shit, I really messed. That obviously wasn't good behavior. I wouldn't teach my kids to act that way.
Right.
Why am I acting that way? Especially to somebody that I say that I love," right? Instead of women being able to say, okay, I messed up. I shouldn't have done that. Now I'm going to apologize and change the behavior. We have trained modern women to have this knee jerk reaction that, no, it's got to be his fault. I'm perfect
Mm-hmm.
the way I am. I'm a queen. I'm a princess. I'm perfect the way I am. It's got to be him. He said something that made me mad, so he deserved to have something thrown at him. It's like, and I think 99% of women out there do not realize that that's not really coming from them. This is coming from cultural programming. You may have
Right.
seen your mom do it, right? I know I came from a house where there was constant fighting and throwing and slamming doors and like swearing at each other and just both parents treating each other totally with disrespect. In a very, very common situation, right? Where my mom's never happy. She's always bitching at my dad. He can never do anything right. And she's always yelling at him. And then at first he protests and then he finally capitulates. He goes, okay, fine. I guess I'm just a piece of shit. I guess we'll just do things your way. Of course it didn't work out.
Mm.
But like I didn't realize I had picked up a lot of these behaviors.
Yeah,
And
that's a
that,
great point
yeah,
because I grew up very luckily. My dad was a military guy, and my mom is a traditionally feminine woman. And so she wasn't a housewife. She did work. She was a secretary. And my dad then also worked, and he busted his ass. And I saw him doing that. But he was a military. He flew helicopters in the army, and so I grew up with like a very rigid, masculine, assertive father, which
yeah,
affected me in a positive way. Looking back, I've told my parents I'm so thankful for the way
yeah,
they were because I didn't have to go through like life lessons in regards to what a man was or what the type of woman I like to be in a relationship with. I saw it in my parents, and they're still married and they still have a happy marriage. And it's like that is a huge factor when we look at contemporary women and men,
yes,
is
yeah,
that what are their examples? They
yes,
don't have living examples. Maybe their grandparents. I mean, most people's parents are divorced. And then, like you said, most men are weak-willed. Maybe they watch sports ball and drink beer. It's like it's got to be more than that. There's got to be a real sense of masculinity, competency, a sense of pride, and not pride in like Pride Month, not pride in
no,
like a gluttonous sin, but pride in the sense of like, this is who I am, this is what I can do, these are my boundaries, and this is what I'm going to build, and I'm going to be a
Yeah.
confident person
It's
in
like having
society.
self-respect for yourself based on your accomplishments and how you treat people. One thing my husband says that I love when people kind of ask him, like, what's your like how do you go about your life? What's your way that you live? And he'll say, I want to make life better for everyone around me just by being here. That's how he like measures himself if he's being successful. Am I making life better for everyone around me? My friends, my wife, my kids, my family? Are things better for them because I'm here or not?
Right.
That's kind of like how he measures himself as a man. And if he feels like he's doing that, he feels confident, he feels happy with himself, and things are good. But yeah, I think so many kids grow up with crappy dynamics at home,
Yep.
divorced parents, and they see this behavior modeled and then it's reflected in the culture. Every single sitcom has a bumbling idiot husband and like a smart, competent wife who's always having to like, I guess I'll
Yeah.
go fix everything because my silly, stupid husband can't do anything, right? And it's just this I tell my girls all the time when they're watching YouTube or they're watching because people ask me all the time, like, do you let your kids participate in culture? And we do because they do have to live in it, but we teach them we talk to them about what they're watching, we talk about the context of it, what things to avoid or what's wrong with it. And one of the things I always tell them is that there's a very popular thing that I feel like nobody notices in every kind of media: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube videos, TV shows, everything, where it's considered like cute for the girl to be bitchy. Okay.
Right.
Almost every female character is a snotty bitch.
Right.
And
True.
if you watch that media all the time and you consume that media all the time, all the music you listen to and everything you're watching where the girl is just like, excuse me, but I don't know. And then
Right.
it's in like the tone. And
And
I
then
would
they listen to Wet
notice,
Ass Pussy by,
yes,
like
yeah,
that's exactly why they get that mentality.
yeah, and Beyonce and even Taylor Swift, every single Taylor Swift breakup song is about how the guy's a piece of shit who wasn't good enough for her, right? Maybe the problem is you, Taylor.
Right.
I point this out to my daughters because sometimes I don't even have to hear what they're saying. They'll be in their room talking to each other, and I'll hear me, right? And I don't even have to hear the words. I just hear the tone, and I'm like, mm-mm. So I'll go in there and I'll be like, oh, what have we been watching? Right? And then talk about how I don't like how you two are talking to each other. You're being little sassy brats, and that is not cute, and it is not funny, and it's not adorable. Okay. I know that TikTok and Instagram make it seem cute to be like a sassy bitch, but it's
Right.
not. And I'm like, you guys don't realize you're forming the habit. This sounds normal to you now, right? Talking to people with that attitude feels normal. So
Right.
then when somebody says, excuse me, why are you being such a bitch? They're like, what do you mean? This is how I talk. This is my normal. And that's that way for so many girls now,
Right.
that just to be sassy and bratty and bossy is like considered just like a personality that they have. And so
Right.
you are never going to get the kind of man that all of you say you want: the 6 foot tall, six pack abs, six figures, right? Drives
Yep.
a nice car, has an 800 credit score, can take you on nice vacations. Any guy who's like worth his salt, and it doesn't even have to be that. He could just be like a good, handsome, strong farm boy who's willing to put in 60 hours a week to
Yep.
provide for his family. You're never going to get that guy with that attitude, with the
Right.
snotty bitch attitude, because the type of men who know what they're about and can handle their business and can solve problems got no time for that shit.
Right.
They're not going to put up with it. So
Right.
I think it's programmed into women, and then I think men get put in a position where they feel like they only have a couple choices, right? And it seems easier to just submit because it's like they got a single mom, the daycare person they went to as a kid was a lady, their teacher in school was a lady, and now they've got a girlfriend, and it's just like a very female dominant
Yeah,
culture
and they
going
don't
on
wanna
for a
take
while.
on the fight. This is where Christ
Yeah.
carrying your own cross is actually a beneficial, not just analogy to reality, but for men. Even Uber Boyle came on, and he's not exactly Christian. He's certainly moving in that direction, but he was talking about that Christ is the definition of a man who won't budge on the truth, and the
Yes.
world will crucify you for it. But if you got a bossy, bitchy girlfriend, and then you're just like, gosh, I just give up. Well, you deserve it then. You deserve it. And that's why I place all the emphasis on men. And I get the betas in my channel all the time. I'll
I
get
know.
comments about, oh, all you want to do is bash guys. All you want to do is bash. Well, the problem with Western civilization and why the women are the way they are and why they're watching the Disney Channel and they're getting these bossy, bitchy mentalities is because the men have no standards over generations. And I would say, doesn't just start with the boomers, but the boomers obviously were a huge catalyst. But like your work with feminism, it goes all the way back to the Enlightenment. It goes all the way back to these mystery cults and magic and witchcraft and this veneration of the goddess figure, and how the idea of progress meant continually pushing the boundaries on gender relations and traditional roles in society. And this mentality of constantly conceding. This is weakness, and this is a failed man. And this is then you wind up in the 21st century. It's 2023, and maybe you're a man and you're 23, 24, 25, and you're realizing, geez, I can't get with anybody. Well, this girl, she kind of shows me attention, but yeah, she dresses so provocatively. I bet there's other guys messenger, but maybe if I'm just really nice to her, maybe she'll just think, oh, he's such a nice guy. No. You got to establish boundaries, and really, whether it's the farm boy, whether it's 800 credit score and all the, the 666, the 6 foot,
Mm-hmm.
All this is a man is not about how much money he makes. A man is not about how many women he sleeps with. A man is about your purpose, your competency, your discipline, your morality. I mean, these things are what define you as character. And so a man, the best thing I can have is a great reputation amongst other men. Men are better judges of men than women are.
That's for sure. That's true.
And so men that have the respect of other men are typically good men, because a man then will look up and he will then submit to another man who is more competent. And so that's what you want to do. And unfortunately, with the structure of society, if you're a young man and you're in your 20s, the cards are stacked against you.
Yes.
You're going to have to become more competent, more disciplined than your grandfather had to. It's just a fact. But this is the cross that you have to carry. This is the time that God placed you in the historical timeline. This is tied to your salvation. You get to have the refrigerator. You get to have the internet. You get to have all these different things, but you're also going to have to deal with these women. You're going to have to deal with the way, and it's because the men have let this happen. And so the only way you can take it back is trying to figure out what your purpose is, what your talents are, what are your passions, and coordinate this into a way in which you can help other people, and therefore then you can extract value and make money. Whether that's plumbing, whether that's construction, whether that's a business, whatever it is, doesn't matter. That's then going to put you in a position to be a man, which then you can actually have leverage in a relationship. Because if your leverage is that your girlfriend is so hot, you don't have leverage, because she can go get another man and she can get pleased in a different way. The only way to have leverage is to be a man that she really can't find, because you guys actually are best friends. You guys actually do have the same intentions. You guys actually do have the same values. Now, then you actually are a man with a purpose and driven, and you're going somewhere. Now she can't find that, because she can't find a man like that, but she definitely can't then find a man who's also her best friend and looks at the world the same way and likes the same movies. And now you are special, and now she will listen. And so that's where, again, I have little time for the men who want to just sit and bitch about women. Yeah, we all see it. Just like you're talking about the fitness stuff, we all see it. But the only thing you can do is to become the best man that you can be based on what you have and what you're given. And it's not about that much money. And that's where the Andrew Tates of the world, one, they have such an audience. Maybe we can get into this. Andrew Tate, why was that phenomenon so incredible and took off in society? Well, one, nobody's talking about these things. So true things. He's talking about masculinity. He's talking about how men have to make yourself. That's a fact. That's just a fact. Again, and that was some of the betas on my channel didn't want to talk about this. Oh, well, you said women have innate value. I have innate value. Shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up. Like, you're 18, 19. Typically you'd go die at war. Like, you need to go prove yourself in society. You have to do something. You have to become somebody. And that's just the way that it is for men. And once you do that, then you'll have leverage with younger women, more beautiful women, women that you're actually attracted to. That's the only way it can happen. And so Andrew Tate is speaking to the disenfranchised male, but then the way he
Yeah.
characterizes masculinity is then all about the money and the cars
Right.
and having 5 girlfriends and 2 baby mamas, 3 baby mamas, whatever it is. Well, that's not it. Now it's blending into masculine hedonism. And
Right.
that's then characterized by the Middle East, Persia, different ancient cultures in which men, that really is the sort of archetype that the feminists think all men are. But if you're a traditional Christian man, that's not what you want, anyways. You know,
Right.
I just want one woman. I got too much on my plate as is. And so, so then Andrew Tate talking about all these girls, well, dude, they're all cam girls. What are you talking? These aren't the type of girls I want.
No.
You know, your 5 girls aren't the type of girls that I want. And so he then appealed to all these young men because he spoke to a real phenomenon in society. He then promoted masculinity. He talked about the matrix. He talked about the structure of the world that's trying to suppress us. But then he appeals to Islam. And that's
Yes.
exactly what I see a lot of these young men, that why they're going to become, convert to Islam, is because they can't form those boundaries in their own
Right.
life. You see,
Yes.
yeah, you want to talk about, a
And
girl that
Islam will do
submits
it
to you.
for you by force.
Exactly.
Right.
A girl that submit to you and cover up. Yeah, I've established that in my own life by constantly working. Dude, it took me 33 years to become the man that I am with the skills that I have, to then ask the woman to, no, if you're going to be with me, you need to cover up.
Yeah.
And therefore, I've established those boundaries by being a godly man over time. That's the only way I got it. But if you're 23, 24, and you can't do that, well, I can just convert to Islam. And then,
Yep.
maybe I can get a virgin bride. Maybe I can get a young girl that then will submit to me, and she has to wear her hijab and she can't talk back. And if she does, I can smack her. And if
Yep.
she, and if I don't, I can also get another wife. If I'm in a Muslim country, I can get, actually 4. I can have 4 wives. So, I think Islam's going to be a threat to the West, not because of military, not because of jihad, only because it allows men that have been disenfranchised due to a generational collapse of masculinity to sort of redeem the boundaries that they actually can't establish in their own life.
Yeah, I totally agree with you 100%. And I see, so like on my Twitter, I had a bunch of men unfollow me for 2 different reasons. One was because of things I said about Nick Fuentes, and the other was things I said about Andrew Tate. And I think that's because those 2 guys are flip sides of the same coin. So like you said, Andrew Tate, he talks about masculinity. He gets some things right that are appeal to disenfranchised young men who feel like everything stacked against them, but he promotes like materialism and hedonism as the answer, as a worldview, right? And then we have Nick on the other side who promotes permanent infantilism, right? He does get some things right as well when it comes to like disaffected young men and certain oppressive forces and things that are holding them back. And so he galvanizes a lot of young men too, but then his answer to that is be an incel. Being an incel is cool. Women are gross. Women are gay.
Right.
Having sex with women is gay. That sort of thing, right? So it's like
Right.
one says live with mommy and daddy and eat chicken tendies and chalky milk, right?
Right.
And be an incel. And the other one says, no, just get a harem and collect a bunch of stuff and build up money. And then
Yeah,
he
make
sells.
money is any way you can. As long as you make
Yeah.
money, it's
It
good.
doesn't matter how unethical or immoral it is. It doesn't matter if it brings value. Like, don't worry about like your actual morality or your real spiritual life. Just build resources so that you can get hoes, right? And then buy my Hustlers University, which is a total scam,
Right.
right? So it's like both of these guys are flip sides, and they both have a lot of mass appeal with young men for all the wrong reasons and tell them all the wrong things. And so when I call that out, they're like, oh, see, you were a feminist all along. You were a dirty feminist this whole time and you're just grifting. No, I'm not grifting. It's that I see what's going on with the gender dynamic, And I have all the sympathy in the world for young men. If
Yeah.
anyone, name somebody who talks about this more than I do and brings up all the statistics and all the things that create these conditions for young men. I
Right.
know what it is, right? I know y'all are raised by single moms. I know mom had 8, 10 different boyfriends while you were growing up who
Right.
probably either hit you or mistreated you or treated you like crap or
Right.
cheated on your mom or beat her up, right? And you had to deal with all that growing up. You have no idea how to be a man. You have no idea what masculinity is. And if you ever tried, you probably got it beaten out of you by like a female teacher, a female daycare worker, or your single
Right.
mom telling you to behave like a girl. And that
Yep.
you're only going to be a good boy if you're acting like a girl and sitting still and being quiet and being passive and all these things. I totally understand everything that young men are up against. I really do. I understand the mentality of young women and all the ways that they go wrong. And I talk about it all the time. I wrote y'all a book. I do videos. So, no, I'm not a feminist. But Andrew Tate is not the answer. And he doesn't care about you. And he's not trying to help you. Nick
Right.
Fuentes is not the answer. And he doesn't care about you. And he's not trying to help you.
Yeah.
People like Patrick understand. And the problem is that Patrick's message isn't as
Quick. There's not a quick answer.
self-gratifying, right? It's
Yeah.
not like a easy fix where you can just kick back and eat your tendies and smoke some weed and play more video games and fap to porn. No, Patrick's going to tell you, sorry, but you got to do a lot of hard work building yourself up as a man if you want this kind of a life and if you want to have real self-esteem that comes from who you are in the world and what value you bring to things and service to God, family, and country and those sort of things. So I think that there's this idea of toxic masculinity. And for me, if there is such a thing as toxic masculinity, it would be the modern weak feminist man, because I've had interactions with these two, and what they do is like sneaky subversion. So what they'll do to women is they'll try to slide in through the friend zone. You know what I mean? And be like, "Oh yes, queen, you're amazing. You're so beautiful. You're so perfect. And if I was your boyfriend, I would do whatever you want and I would just worship at your feet." And they wait for the woman to be in a vulnerable place where either she's just gone through a breakup or something traumatic, and then they try to slide in, right? And they try to make the move. A lot of times they get turned down, and then they become like this Elliot Rodger type who like hates women. And they're like, "I did everything she wanted and I worshiped her and I gave her everything and I said everything I was supposed to say and she still wouldn't sleep with me. Women are horrible." And then they turn into these like 4chan groiper type of guys who hate women, and they'll scream horrible things at them and say awful things about them online. And it's like, the reason you hate women is not really because of what the women are doing, right? It's because you tried to be sneaky and be a male feminist and be a little snake and serpent slither your way in. And women,
Right.
like, we have a built-in aversion to those kind of men. Like, we know something's off with that.
Unless they're on birth control. Like this was a fact, right? That men preferred more or men with lower testosterone when they're on birth control, because hormones, again, women off birth control, men doing the best that they can, will naturally begin to sort itself out.
Yeah.
And so that's why, a dominant woman's always going to be with a submissive man. That's the only way it can go. And so if you want a submissive woman, then you're going to have to be more of a dominant man. But that's just not putting your opinion on somebody. That's competency in the world. Like, other men have to see you as some type of dominant, or you're not really dominant. Not being dominant over women, but other men have to see it. That's the big key. And I think you were talking about the single mother thing. Unfortunately, young men need love from an older man, and it's not gay. It's like, it's a fatherly love, right? It's like,
right.
Talking about my dad being a military guy. It's like, I always knew my dad loved me, and so I always had a bond with an older man that could navigate the world. And so there's always an expectation, no matter what I do. My parents, my dad always supported me. My parents always, but there was an expectation. I better work hard at it. I better become successful at it. I better be good at it, because if not, why am I doing it? And then you're not going to get that if you don't have a man that's pushing you in your life. That's why a good father is essential. And that's how then a young man can see what a man is and how to act as a man. But if you don't have that, it's just, it's really it's an unfortunate state for a lot of young guys. They don't have a male figure to look up to, and so then they start promoting communism and social, because the state becomes the man, the state becomes the authority figure. You got to follow God. And uh and so you look at, like you said, Nick Fuentes, he banned me from, or blocked me or whatnot, blocked me on all the social medias like a year and a half ago. And it's because I talked about the chalky milk and the chicken nuggies. And I was like, I couldn't believe, 30-year-old men talking about how Nick Fuentes is going to save America. I'm like, what are you
Right.
talking about? This dude's like just over 21. And I honestly think he's closeted gay or something. Like, what? It's weird, dude. If you have that much money and you had that large of a following, there had to have been girls that, if you were, you know, a, just a regular guy, that you probably had access to other, unless, there's something really weird going on. Maybe you're addicted to porn, or again, the kinky stuff. I don't know. Jade McNeil talked about some of that stuff,
Yeah.
that weird TV shows he wants to watch that promote trans and gay stuff. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know where he is. God bless him. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope that he's a Christian, but he blocked me a long time ago just for making the point that the rhetoric they use is so juvenile. Like, how can you be taken seriously? You want to talk about global, and I'm not saying he's not a smart guy.
Yeah.
You want to talk about global politics, and you're then also talking about, microwavable chicken nuggies and chocolate milk and like brownies
Or
with,
the latest McDonald's Happy Meal toys. He would
this
get
is,
super excited about like Happy Meal toys and things like that.
yeah,
So
there's something very strange about that. And then, Andrew Tate on the other end, like you said, it's sort of the opposite of the same coin. And I wish him nothing but the best. But I think him moving over to Islam was also a pragmatic move.
yep.
So he already saw the debanking that was going on. He was an Orthodox Christian in Romania. Well, in another video at one point, I heard him say he just basically gave the church $20,000, and they let him and his brother, get baptized, which isn't a right
No.
thing. But you
And
can
you can
imagine a poor
look,
country
even
like
in
Romania.
Orthodoxy, you can find a corrupt church if you look hard
Right.
enough.
And I don't know, and I'm not trying to disparage whatever church he went to, but you could imagine in Romania, maybe times are rough. So a guy, gives you 20,000, that could probably go a long ways. 20,000 USD in Romania. I don't know. I don't know the context, but he made a point that he just decided that he needed a religion. So he kind of gave the church some money, became Orthodox. That lasted for about a year and a half. And then
Yep.
once the debanking started happening in the West, so all the Western banks, what's he do? He converts to Islam. Well, they have their own banking system.
Yep.
So he can then move all his money over there. He can become Muslim. And now at least he has, again, a framework that he can at least be defended by. And that's what we're seeing. Young men convert to Islam. All the Muslims that are on Twitter and everything, Andrew Tate, because now he's their guy. And so it's not an easy way out for the Western man, or the European-based man, or really any,
Yeah.
because now this feminist stuff is getting everywhere. Now India is terrible with the
Yes.
feminism stuff, so Indian men have the same exact problem.
It's thanks to the Bush Doctrine. Remember, we were going to spread freedom and democracy everywhere, and we were going to bring feminism to Afghanistan and all that stuff. So it's like, I mean, one thing I wanted to ask you about also. So, Avanice, I think it would be in the chat. He said, I would say cooking is also based in masculine appreciation and gratitude for all we are given as a result, better than a happy meal. So there's some things that bother me also on the right or in the trad sphere, whether it's Orthodox, Catholic, things like that, where people like traditional gender roles, but then they take it super far to where it's like, so if I shoot guns, I'm a feminist. There's something wrong with me. I shouldn't do
Or if
that.
I wash a dish as a man, I must be cut.
Yeah, right. So like, how do you feel about like, because to me, I feel like as a woman, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm very maternal, like Patrick. When I've met you in person, I'm like, I'm mothering you and I can't help it because it's just how I am. I'm just like that's my personality, right? But I also like if I have a choice of going to the shopping mall or going to the shooting range with the guys, I'm going to the shooting range. And if I have a choice between going dress shopping. I don't know. I'm trying to think of stuff girls like to do, like Tupperware parties or like some of that
Go
kind of stuff.
handbags. Do you like handbags? I
I
know.
I don't care about purses or shoes even a little.
Well,
Never
that's
have.
one that,
And
girls like, and that is totally fine with me. For example, for me, I don't need a lot. I wear very similar stuff. I have supposedly all my dress stuff. I already own all that. I already got my dress shoe. I don't need to go buy things, really. I only spend things, like pre-workout, like I have a couple gym memberships,
yeah,
like I have multiple things that I do, but I don't need much. But for me as a man, yeah, I don't mind spending money on a handbag for a girl that I love or her doing those things.
yeah,
But also, if she's too superficial in those things, then that's a
right.
big red flag for me. My girlfriend, very feminine. She's from Germany. She had never shotgun. So when she came, we got sniper rifles, ARs, AKs, nine
Let's
millimeters,
go. I love
you
it.
know, and she loved it. She absolutely loved it. It was one of her favorite things she did in the US. And it's
Yes,
like,
yes. So, like, the idea that men I know a lot of men who love to cook. My dad loves to cook. I know guys who love, like, if they get a smoker for Christmas and they can experiment with, like, smoking their own meat,
yeah,
or they love to make a great breakfast or something. I don't think that's feminine. So I think
no,
this weird crap in the trad sphere where
yep,
it's like only women can cook and
yeah,
only men can work out and only it's
that's
like
ridiculous.
that also takes it too far. And
It is.
historically, this is another big problem with people not knowing any history is like historically the best chefs were men, like
And
generally
and they
people who cooked for
still
the
are. I don't
king.
mean to,
Yeah, they
I don't
still
mean to say
are.
anything, Rachel, but again, if you look at all the top chefs in the world, it's all still men. There's nothing wrong with being interested in culinary skills. That's phenomenal.
Yeah,
That's
that's
great. That's
awesome.
another way a man can become competent. Like
Right.
become a great chef, own your own restaurant. Now franchise your restaurant out. Now all of a sudden you're making real money, and now
Yeah.
you don't have to be in the kitchen. Now you can. I mean, it's like again, that stuff is so close mind. These are men who people who would even say that like they're already showing them that they're not
Yes.
confident, successful men because nobody would say something so dumb.
Yeah, exactly. And like, okay, Andrew doesn't go to the gym. He's a very cerebral guy. He's just not like somebody who's gonna just like for him, the idea of another set of 12 of these, like really, it just seems
Right.
repetitive and
And
boring to him. I
sure.
love it. I love lifting weights, but I don't look like a man. Sorry to disappoint everyone. Everybody tells me I'm going to look like a man. It's
I
been
know that.
15
That's
years.
that's one of the dumbest things I hate is that if a woman lifts weight, you guys are retarded. You do not even know what a woman looks like who lifts weights.
No, we don't look like men. The amount of steroids and like injectables and things I would have to be
Right.
on to actually look like a man. I mean, I'm really strong, but I don't look like a man. Just my body won't produce like giant muscles and thick bones and stuff like that. It's
Right.
not going to happen. It just I always recommend weightlifting to women. Number 1 because it helped me a ton. I've had 5 kids, right? And your pelvic floor and like your internal organs and everything, if you can stay really strong, if you can get good just full body strength, it helps a ton with carrying babies, delivering babies, recovering from
Right.
childbirth. It's really really good for you. So like that's a big benefit of it. Another thing is like, okay, I can lift the 40-pound bag of softener salt and take it downstairs and put it in the softener tank without having to ask my husband, right? It just I'll age better. I'll be less fragile. I'm not going to fall and break a bone at 45 because I have such like fragile bones. It I don't look masculine. And if Andrew and I both had to like pick up a heavy sandbag, he can still pick up something way heavier than I can even though he
Right.
doesn't ever go to the gym.
Exactly. And that's another archetype or stereotype that's stupid too, is that every man has to lift weights or he's not.
Right.
That's not true either.
No.
Again, this is about competency. This isn't
Right.
about you have to go that there's plenty of guys that go to the gym and they have no discipline. They're fapping all the time. They're simps to women. They can't control their sexual. It has nothing to gym is just one expression
Right.
of this overall general competency and self-awareness and becoming the best version of yourself. There's many ways you can do it. And so again, you don't have to be man. I'm sure there's plenty of guys that are going to watch this. Like, man, I'm kind of like Andrew. I really find it so boring going to the gym. That's
Yeah.
fine.
That's
You don't
totally
have to
fine.
lift weights. You just has to figure out where the hell are you going in your life and start moving there. And it
Yeah.
can't be like, oh, well, I need a girlfriend to help me and give me confidence so I can start going. Dude, you're
No.
weak. You don't even deserve a girlfriend because no woman should submit to you in the first place. That's another one of these guys want a girl that's going to submit. dude, why should they? You're weak, you're pathetic, you complain, you're emotional, you have nothing going on in your life. Shut up. You
Yeah.
deserve to be alone.
Yeah, so like let's get this silly idea out of our heads that femininity means helplessness, right? And that masculinity means brute force, because that's really not what it's about. Those could potentially be some aspects of those things, but like Patrick said, it's more about competence. Like I think my husband's extremely attractive and he doesn't like have giant muscles. I don't care about that. He's got a million other things about him that make me
Right.
find him very
And it's
attractive.
because he's competent with those things.
Yes, exactly.
If he was
Like,
incompetent at all those things, you'd be like, God,
yeah,
Andrew, will you get it together?
I know, right? Yeah, but he's exactly the person you want around if shit goes crazy or whatever. Like he's just, if you guys know him, you already know that
Yep.
he's fabulous and very competent. But um another thing I think that's important to masculinity is like when you look at the old chivalric codes, the men were like knights, right? The code that knights had.
Right.
They saw themselves as being in service to others. It was not about like flexing on them. Like the guys, the Andrew Tate music videos, okay? Go to his old music videos where he made these retarded rap song music
I
videos
haven't
about
seen these.
flexing. I'm flexing on the poor guys. I'm flexing on the poor boys. It's just the
Oh my
most
gosh.
cringe thing you've ever seen in your life. That's not masculinity. Being flashy and flexing on people and having, like expensive crap, that's not masculinity at all. So that's another thing I would say it's not. It's when I see somebody who I think is a masculine man, it's not because he's got like a bigger gold chain than the dude next to him.
Right.
That's silly. And then girls trying to be like helpless and like, oh, I can't do anything myself. I don't think that that's actually feminine. And
Right.
I've gotten this pushback from people even who are supposed to be like on the more conservative traditional side, where they'll be like, oh really, if you're not a feminist, then why are you talking with authority? And I'm not talking with authority, I'm speaking from experience, right? So there's a difference between women having authority. I do not have authority over my husband, my church, my clergy, over Patrick, over anybody except my children, and then maybe like younger people, much younger and more inexperienced than me, that I'm kind of like a matriarch mother figure because I've been through some shit in 42 years, okay? And I've earned it, and I'm still here and I've handled myself and I've, maintained a certain standard for myself throughout my life and having gone through many hard things. It's just the general respect you get as an elder person. Right now that I'm
Right.
past 40, I'm like in the second half of my life. It doesn't mean I have authority. I'm not trying to exert authority. And because I do live streams where I'm sharing knowledge, so like I'll get this from people where they'll say women shouldn't teach. That's a
Right.
masculine thing, right? And I'm like, no, okay. How am I supposed to homeschool my kids
Right.
if I don't
I want
teach?
my wife to homeschool my kids.
Yeah, you would want her to be able to teach people things that she knows
Absolutely.
that they don't know. It's like nobody
Absolutely.
has the proper context anymore. When we talk about that from a biblical perspective, what that means is I'm not allowed to go into my church Sunday and start telling my clergy, who are men and should be, I don't believe in female preachers, female clergy, any of that. I'm not allowed to go in there and start telling them what I think they should be teaching in the church. I'm not allowed to go in there and start correcting them on theology or saying, well, I think that I should be able to be a deacon because God told me, right? That's what that means. And it means that
Right.
like if I were 22, I'm not supposed to go to a 40-year-old man and start correcting him and telling him
Right.
what's what.
Exactly.
That's what that means. For these trad right kids, and I say kids because they're kids,
They
right?
mostly are.
They're
And
my
if they
kids.
aren't, they act like it.
Yeah, for them to be telling me, well, you're not a real woman because you're teaching. No, I even had a comment under the video I did with Jay where some kid was like, am I the only one who finds it weird that this woman is protesting feminism, but yet here she is teaching? It's like, I'm not teaching in the way that you are thinking, right?
Right.
I'm not
And wouldn't you want a
authority.
woman to call out the feminism? I mean, like, it seems like, and yeah, the inability to realize that the teaching authority that's within the church, and that's why then that should never be subverted. But telling other women about feminism, telling other women how to lift, telling other
Yeah.
women about cooking certain what the hell is wrong with
Yeah,
that?
or even in a stream like this where maybe there's a 20-year-old kid watching and I'm telling him, "Hey, don't listen to what 20-year-old or 18-year-old girls tell you they want because they don't
Right.
know what the hell they want. Take
True.
it from me, an older, more experienced lady, that what they do want is a guy who is competent and that they can respect and things like that. That's not me like overstepping my bounds to just share the wisdom I've gained with age, right? So that's another myth about gender roles.
Yep.
And then I think another thing about masculinity that we should probably talk about is so a lot of the pop stars, and this started a while back. I'd say this started like maybe in the 70s with like David Bowie and Mick Jagger and Freddie Mercury.
Oh boy.
We have a lot of men who are considered attractive, but they kind of gender bend, right? They wear
Yeah.
like
It's the
sparkly cat
the
suits.
androgyne rock
Yeah.
star.
Who's that guy? Harry Styles.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, guys like that, where you even see like older women fawning all over him because he's very cross dressy and he's kind of masculine, but then he like really pushes certain feminine things. So
Well, he wears dresses and stuff
yeah,
like we didn't even get into the gym. I wanted to mention about the older women. There's also it's not just the young girls that wear no clothes. It's also the MILFs with huge boobs and that are somewhat fit. Why are they going to the gym dressed in that way? So you're talking about the older women and Harry Styles. Well, if you go to any gym from the hours of 4 to 8 o'clock, again, the peak hours at any gym, you're going to see plenty of women that aren't in their 20s, that aren't in their 30s, that may be in their 40s, and they may be fit, but they're doing the exact same thing. They're wearing hardly any clothes. They're getting the attention of the young guys. So it makes them still feel wanted because they're on the edge. Maybe they're postmenopausal. Maybe they're about to be postmenopausal, and they still want to feel like they're wanted and desired sexually. And
yes.
they still may look great. But again, the problem is why are they doing that? And how this is part of part of our culture. And, you look at these older women that like these sort of young, the skinny femboy look. This is like the motherly. This is why the pornography is always trying to get like young guys or young boys with like the older hot MILF and create this sort of sexual dynamic. So the young, frail guys and the old women. And it's like this motherly eroticism. It's very strange. It's
Yeah,
like
I'm actually going to do a whole stream on MILFs and cougars because I had a conversation with a friend recently that he's experiencing this. He's like not super young either. He's like late 30s and he's been looking for a wife and he's like he showed me some DMs he's gotten because he was like, this is a serious problem. He's like, I can't, I'm looking for somebody who can have kids, and I'm getting messages from women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, even.
oof,
And they're like very forward sexually with
yeah.
him. And he's like, why? Like, what's
Well,
going
and
on? He's
because
like,
sex isn't about procreation at that stage. So sex is explicitly about the pleasure of it and
mhm,
about the eroticism of it. So when you're dealing, especially with any postmenopausal woman, that's where again there's the whole stereotype of the horny woman that's
yeah,
postmenopausal, and it may be their hormones, whatever. I'm not getting into all that stuff, but I'm saying how this is a very strange dynamic. If you're a young strapping man and you've already know exactly what I'm talking about, is that these 40-50-year-old women who may, again, for all intents and purposes, the way they're age, they may still look good, but it's a avert, almost a dominant sexuality to just because it's not about long-term relationships. It's not about having children. It's just about, oh, you're hot, I'm hot. Let's have sex.
right.
Let's just get it on.
And I think there's another dynamic to that, which is why I want to do a stream on it. So I'll just kind of briefly
Ooh,
say
okay, let's hear it.
all the feminists that I've researched, like a huge number of them, get into their older years, 40s, 50s, 60s, and they get much younger boyfriends. They don't usually marry them. It's usually like a live-in boyfriend type of a thing where it might be like a woman who's 53 and she's got a 20-year-old
Yeah.
type of a thing. Most of the feminists that I've studied do this later in life. And I think it's because younger, more impressionable men without a lot of resources or authority, these women have like a domination kind of fetish with
Yes.
them. So I think there's like this element where they feel like they're in control, and they have this, and it is partially to like, oh, do I still have it? Have I still got it? Can I still cast my little spell and make this guy drool and make him putty in my hands type of a thing. And it's really just about like self-validation and, again,
Right.
attention, right? And
Have you
because
seen that?
those women start to feel invisible next to the younger, more fertile women,
Right.
so then they go way over the top with
Because
things
they
and they
don't have the
chase young men
fertility.
and
Right.
right.
Did you see there's a show called MILF Island?
Ugh,
Have you seen this?
no.
So,
I guess I'm gonna
my
have to
mom, one of
now.
my mom's guilty pleasures is I know she watches what Married at First Sight and like 90 Day Fiance, that stuff like that. Well,
Mhm,
sometimes I'll sit and I'll watch those shows with her just to spend time with her and just watch it, the world. Well, there's a new show that she didn't watch this, but it's called MILF Island. And what it is all these women that are like 40 plus, they all have their boob jobs, their facelift, they look young and pretty or whatnot, got all their handbags. And then all the boys on the island are in their 20s, and they're then trying to find a mate. And one of them, this is how sick it is, one of the boys that is into the MILFs, he gets to the island. This is just the preview. So I have not watched the
mhm.
show. This was just how they were teasing it. His mom was one of the women. So it's like, what's going on? So the young guy who likes the older women and wants to get with one of these his mom turns out to be one of the older women. And she also wants to get with the young guys. So he wants a woman the same age as his mom. And his mom she's divorced and she wants a man the same age as her son. What the
That is
hell is going
very
on?
weird. That is very weird, but yeah, I mean, like, the research I'm doing for my next book, one of the Bolshevik feminists was, like, 63 and had, like, a 20-year-old military guy as a boyfriend, and she gained a reputation for doing this, and it was just a common thread throughout all the feminists that they would, if they did get married and have kids, a lot of them did. They got married and had 1 or 2 kids, maybe 3 kids, and they would leave the husband to go do their feminist activism and end up with like far younger men. So I like have a whole lot of theories about that based on just researching these women and their lives and seeing the same patterns over and over. And then now we see this pushed in pornography and things like that. It's
Yep.
like any kind of taboo, weird thing is what they push people into because you need weirder and weirder stuff to get the same effect, I guess.
Right.
So I think that's part of it. And I think the other thing is like everybody wants to have sterile sex now, right? It's
Yes.
like,
Oh,
how much sex can I have without getting
yeah.
pregnant
Speak
and
to this.
without
This is a
having a
big one.
kid? So,
Oh, the sterile sex thing. It's exactly the case. Everybody wants to have the sterile sex. And it's a celebrated thing. Again, all it is celebrating sex without consequences, which means sex without fertility, which
yeah,
means then sex outside the confines of a normal parameters of what you're looking for. So for
right.
me, I'm looking for a wife. Therefore, I want a younger woman. I
Mhm.
want a woman in her 20s, most specifically in her early 20s, because I want a really fertile woman. Because I'm in a point in my life, I want to have family and babies, and the younger she is, the more babies we can have, the healthier she'll be, the more energy she'll have in her 30s to
Yeah.
raise them. That's just me thinking long term about family, the purpose, fertility, the purpose for the sex itself.
Yeah.
But then people aren't thinking long term or what's the purpose. It's just self pleasure. So
Right.
therefore, well, if it's a dude, if it's a trans woman, if it's an older one, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing, right? If
Right.
it's a pocket pussy, it doesn't matter.
Right. Exactly. And here's something to think about too, guys. So, my 2 youngest daughters both have birthdays in February. My 2 oldest both have their birthdays in March. I have a lucky time of year. Um, in February, my 2 youngest are going to be turning 11 and 14. And I just realized yesterday that I've got 7 years left before my youngest child is an adult. So I will be 50, not even quite 50. I'll be 49, and all my kids will have been grown. I will have spent 30 years of my life mothering and raising a family, and I'm to the end stages of it now. But I'm like really glad because I remember when I had my first daughter at 20, people acted like it was the end of my life. People just said, "Well, her life's over. That's it. She can never do anything ever again now because she had a baby." when she was 20. And I was like, at the time, even I was like, so isn't that like, it seems like a good age to me to have a
Yeah.
baby at 20. I'm very glad that I did that because now there's like a whole nother chunk of life for me where hopefully I get to be a grandma and be really
Yep.
involved with that, and I'll still be young and healthy enough to be really active and do those things. So like this idea that we tell all the women to wait until they're 40 to start having kids, go and get a ton of college debt and then have a long career that you're super invested in, and then all of a sudden try to switch over to family life. Number one, that's a really tough transition that goes very badly for a lot of people. It's that you can't just turn off career woman after 20 years and just become wifey, stay at home mom. It's like women get all kinds of crazy dysphoria. And honestly, I think it might be, I'm going to research this because I think it might have something to do with this correlation of when you see these tragic stories where the mothers have like postpartum psychosis and do something
Right.
awful to the children. I don't even like to think about it, but I don't think that it's normal or an easy adjustment to suddenly try to switch over to being a mom when you're like 40. And
Right.
because I get pushback from women on that a lot, and I'm like, wouldn't
Or being
recommend
a
it.
great partner, right? I mean, if a woman has lived a life throughout her 20s and basically the majority of her 30s, and maybe she had a good job or whatnot, and she had money, but all the men in her life were just, in a way, I don't want to be so degrading, but in a way, a sort of utility,
Yeah,
a pleasurable utility. And now they're like, oh crap, I'm 36, I'm 37, I'm 38, 39. I need to find somebody. Well, what type of relationship are you even going to offer? You have no history of compromising, of submitting, of thinking first about somebody else. And so you're literally just are trying to find a sperm donor, and hopefully they're compatible enough with you to stay together.
yeah, and
And
that it's just really rough to do, and it shouldn't be surprising that that has a low success rate and that it's very difficult for people. I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm not saying you shouldn't try if that's where you're at in life and that's what you want, and
right. And we have
you
some
have
beautiful
been a
Orthodox
victim of
women.
this stuff.
Right,
Yeah, if
that's
you've
where they're
been
at in their life, and God bless them,
yeah,
and God will bring the right man. Again, that's where providence comes in.
right.
But at the same time,
I don't
as
think
a
we should
man,
encourage it as the norm.
yes, and as
Yeah,
a man, for the young 20-year-olds, the 19, 18, you have no leverage in our culture. That's just the way it is. We
yeah,
don't have a traditional culture where you could get, a woman that's 3, 4 years younger than you, and you guys could get married when you're 24, and you could then be set off and you can have a traditional it's just we're not dealt those cards. So
yeah,
really, unless it's God's providence for you, plan on really finding that woman near your into your 20s or in your 30s, because you're going to have to build yourself up to get that girl. And do not submit to these older women. I'll
right.
be a little transparent here. I again been looking, or was looking, for 3 years to find a wife. I had a woman who reached out to me. She sent me a long email, clearly watched a lot of my streams, knew what I wanted while I was looking in. And she said, you know what? I think we would be really, really compatible. I'd like to, talk with you and have a phone conversation. Okay. Had never bought, she was really straightforward. Okay, that's fine. Maybe she's just straightforward. I asked her, well, okay. I find that great. Went back and forth. I asked her, well, how old are you? And then she didn't respond, and we kept talking. And then I asked her again, well, and again, and this time I sent her my phone. Well, how old are you? You didn't say, oh, I'm 32. I'm your age. Oh, okay. Not the biggest deal. Okay. Again, if it's Providence, it's Providence. So then we talk, and then I start talking with her, and turns out she's a Ukrainian girl. She was pretty. Um, but she was 36. She lied to me about her age. So once we got
Okay.
on the phone and we started talking, I'm thinking, okay, how old are you? Oh, well, I got something I want to tell you. I'm not exactly 32. I'm 36. I'm going to be 37 at the end of the year. And you're exactly what I'm looking for. And I want to have, no, I'm sorry. One, you lied about your age. Two, why are you 36 and now you want to, you hear all the stuff I talk about online, but now I'm the person that you want? I don't think so. Uh, so I don't mean to call anybody out. Again, I doubt she's ever going to watch this, but then she was like sending a picture about some of how well endowed she was, within her breast, and it's like, girl, like, I don't care. You're 36. I need babies. If you were, I told her, if you were 12 years younger, then I'd be interested. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that these women think that it's about like what they look like, and it's totally not. Before we keep, because we're going to keep going for a few more minutes, but I want to tell all of you guys in the chat, I dropped the Dono chat link there. If you guys want to ask Patrick or me a question, or you want to give us some feedback or a comment, or just support my brand new baby channel, please click the Dono chat link. You can send a Dono chat. It's super easy, really simple. And then please like and share the stream and hit the subscribe button. I've got to get better at promoting myself, because I get so into the content that I just forget. But yeah, women think it's about looks. And I get that too, where they're like, I still look good and my mom still looked good. And it's like, it's
And you
not
may
about
they
your
and most of
looks,
the time they
though.
do. But it's
Yeah.
not about looks, it's about fertility, because that's what I'm a traditional man. That's what I'm looking for then.
Yeah.
Submission, fertility, religiosity, piety, virtue. Those
Yeah.
are the green flags for me.
Yeah, and listen, if women are allowed to have all kinds of criteria for men, because let's not lie and be dishonest here. Women are extremely picky about like certain things they want or don't want in men. Short men have a hard time. Bald
It's
men
true.
have a hard time. Guys with no money, right? It's like women have tons of things they want in guys, but the minute a guy says, no, I'd like a younger, more fertile woman because I want a lot of kids, it's like, even again, in the more traditional circles, the women will be like, excuse me, but I don't think, and they get this attitude about it. They get very defensive. And to me, that is completely reasonable. It's logical. It makes sense. If I were a man in my 30s and wanted a family, I would not be looking for women my age or older. I would be looking for women younger than me. Because
Right.
again, as a woman who's had 5 kids, let me tell you, having a baby at 20 and having a baby at 32 was a totally different ball game, right? It's
Right.
like I did fine with it, but it got harder as I got older. So there's that to think about, and we just tell women the wrong things. We program them and we propagandize them with so many wrong things, and then we do the same thing to the men in the other direction. And so poor Patrick is sitting here trying to talk to the men, I'm trying to talk to the women, and they're all confused, and they get mad because we're saying things they're not used to hearing. But we're just trying to be honest and upfront, and I'm speaking from the experience of being an older woman and a mom, and Patrick's speaking from the experience of being a man who's gone through the whole climbing the male hierarchy to get to a certain point where he feels ready and qualified to have a family, and what
Right.
that's like. So there's a lot to consider about how backwards everything in the culture is, and how we encourage all the wrong things and discourage all the right things.
Right.
So
And may I speak to when you're talking about,
yeah.
the men, and that's where as men, we have to be more realistic than women are. And so if you are short, if you are, you have male pattern baldness and you're already seeing that your hair is going thin at your early 20s, these are just the cards that you've been dealt. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore you got to make up with it in certain ways. In a way, I don't mean to be so crude, but in a way, we are sort of like video game characters in your stats. So if you are short, well, then you can make it for by being disciplined. You can go to the gym and get jacked. That's definitely going to help. You can do other things. And so do not sit there and whine about whatever God gave you or didn't give you. You got to make the best with what you have, and that's going to make you more attractive to women, especially if you being short doesn't bother you, because you do have a good job, you are highly intelligent, you are a disciplined man, you do go to church, you know that God loves you, you know that you're in the right place. Then it doesn't matter when that woman who you're interested in, she turns her back, it does not matter. But you're going to become the man that a girl that you actually want, she's looking for. Because there is a woman out there who's in everything that you want, and she doesn't care. Does he have to be? Actually, I kind of likes shorter guys. But you have to be the man already in all these different attributes. That's why she can then be with you, and that's why she can like you. So, if you're a short man, it's okay. It is tough out here, but you just got to make up for it in different attributes. And that's why you have to build yourself, and you have to think about constantly. It has to become a lifestyle of becoming the best version of yourself. And that's really going to set you free, and that's going to draw the right person to you.
Yeah, and the same thing actually goes for women. So that these things Patrick just said don't stop once you get married either. So Andrew and I have been together for 15 years, and I love him more than I did 15 years ago. And I actually still actively work to try to be the kind of wife that I think he wants and deserves all the time. I try to like keep myself in decent shape. I try to do little things for him that I know are important to him and make him feel loved. And even if it's something, so this is another thing that you'll learn if you get married, is that there might be things I don't care about at all, but they're really important to him. That
Right.
matters. It doesn't have to be important to me. And same thing, like there's stuff I really care about that he's like, I don't care about that. And I don't know why you care about it, but you do. So like it's important to me if it's important to you, right? But
Right.
it's the same thing for women. This bullshit that you girls have been fed, that you're beautiful at every size, that you're already perfect the way you are, that you're a queen and you're amazing. And girl, if he doesn't love you at your worst, he doesn't deserve you at your best. That is all lies. That is all bullshit. And it's setting you up for failure. And I do think, because remember that men and women have separate hierarchies. And this is why feminism is so stupid, because it's trying to teach women to compete with men in the male hierarchy, which
Right.
doesn't make sense and
But they
doesn't work
don't
in
want
the
the
real
same
world.
responsibilities. So they want to compete for the jobs, they want to compete for the
Mm-hmm.
opportunities, but
Right.
then but then you also then want this is where they want both. So they want to make six figures themselves. So they want to make 150,000, but that means then you have to make
Right.
450,000. And it's
Yes.
like, whoa, what? And she gets to keep all her money, but then you also have to pay for everything with your money. And it's
Yes.
like, what? That's not how it works at all. That means they
No.
want to be the man, they want to compete with men, but then they still want a man to take care of everything.
No, it's so silly. So remember that women compete for men. We compete for the best mates. And I think that there could be some women who push that messaging on purpose because it basically takes you out of the game. If you think that you're beautiful at 300 pounds and you're already a queen and you're perfect the way you are, and you think that being a brat is cute, they already took you out of the game. You're not
Yep.
competition for them at all. So pay attention to who's telling you that crap, because some of them, I think, have a vested interest in promoting this kind of messaging. And it's just not true. If you are a woman and you want a really quality man and you want to keep a quality man, then you have to have higher standards for yourself of your behavior, of what you actually bring to the table, not what you in your ridiculous feminist programmed mind think you bring to the table, which is I'm a female and I'm alive. I'm sorry, but that's not enough. Are
Right.
you going to be a good partner for all of this man's life who he can count on to raise his children and raise them well? Or are you going to like flake out or bail on your responsibilities as a mom? Are you going to be a good wife who doesn't just fight the poor man on every single thing he's trying to do? Are you going to be the kind of wife who builds your husband up and encourages him and gets him psyched up to go like tackle his day? Or are you going to be the kind of wife that just takes the wind out of his sails and completely like deflates him and makes him feel, defeated before he even gets out of the door in the morning?
Right.
These are the things that you have to think about. We as women should aim to be the kind of wives that like really good quality men want. This idea that you've been fed that you're perfect the way you are, first of all, if you're Christian, you should know better than that. None of us are
Mhm.
perfect the way we are. We are
Amen.
not we are not perfect queens, okay? That's number 1. Number 2, you don't deserve to be served and catered to and have everything go your way and get everything that you want. You're not special. Sorry if you've never heard it before coming to my channel, but you're not. You are a flawed human being like everyone else. And if you want certain things in life, and it includes like a high quality man or a family, then this mentality of like, I'm perfect the way I am, he should love me with all my flaws, but I get to criticize the hell out of him. Like,
Right.
learn to take criticism, learn to look at yourself and see where you fall short, and admit to yourself and say, dang, I screwed up there, and I shouldn't have acted this way and I shouldn't be doing that thing. And like, maybe I drink too much wine on a regular basis. This is another thing, is like, women being total alcoholics is now suddenly acceptable if it's wine. No,
Right. And
no.
And may I second this
Yeah.
too, again, just like you're talking about, this also goes for the men. You know, Andrew Tate talked about how, oh, well, this girl, she said one thing and I kicked her out and she was crying and I don't give a damn, you know. Well, that's not what a man does either. And that's not masculine. So
No.
that means if you want to get that young girl or that traditional girl or whatever, the right girl for you, then you need to also take care of her. And that's not just about throwing money and buying her handbag. That's about actually listening. That's actually about, sometimes women just need to vent. And you really do, as a man, just
Yeah.
need to sit there and listen and then
Yeah.
actually hear it and then talk back to him and have a conversation. Yes, you may think, man, I'd rather be talking about the energy essence distinct or whatever, you know, some larger. It doesn't matter. It's about her relationship with her girlfriend. And she said this and it happened to this. You have to invest. Both people have to emotionally
Yes.
invest into the relationship. So if the woman is not building up her man, well, then that's going to cause serious problem. And if the man's not also building up his woman, and that's not just telling her how sexy she is all the time, because
Yeah.
that's not it. It's about listening. It's about providing. It's about having special moments, you know, like when it is, you know, her birthday or it's the anniversary, like do something, make memories, make
Yeah.
things that have, you can have experiences and share things together. It goes both ways. And it's not masculine for a man to act like he doesn't care. It is masculine if she starts transgressing to put your foot down,
Right.
say no, and turn away. But if you are with somebody, you need to invest in them. That means emotionally, with your attention, with your time, with your money. All these things need to, but it has to be reciprocated also.
Yeah.
And so you need to get what you expect back. And that's why I'm very straightforward. And I think at this point in society, it's good to be straightforward. Say what you expect and ask them and then say, what do you expect?
Yeah.
What do you expect of me? And that you can do this on the first or second date. You don't have
Yeah.
to wait, because if it turns them off that you expect them to do certain things or well, then you're not meant to be. And that's the thing, is everybody's so scared of being alone instead of becoming the right person for somebody else. And
Yeah.
that's where you want to offer opportunities to somebody. You want to constantly be helping each other be the best version of yourselves. And that's, again, so don't listen to Andrew Tate on how to treat a woman, because that's not masculine and that's not Christian. You need to invest in the other person, and it's a lifelong investment. And that's why then you'll always can grow closer to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and don't listen to Miley Cyrus. She's got this new song out called Flowers. It's a catchy tune, but it's like the lyrics are an answer to that Bruno Mars song where he sings about all the things he should have done in the relationship. I should have brought you flowers and held your hand. It's like her answer to that song, and she talks about how she can buy herself flowers, she can take herself dancing, she can do all these things for herself, and she can love herself better than a man can. Okay, everybody out there, okay, all you ladies, but then that's what you're going to get. It's
Right.
going to be you and yourself alone, and you are going to just be alone, right? This idea that you are a weak woman if you want a man to love and protect you is ridiculous. And this is where I feel like the fact that since I do tough girl stuff, right? I'm out there shooting the big guns with the boys. I'm out here lifting the big weights with the guys. I will haul wood. I will stack sandbags. I'm like a country girl from farms, you know. I will go mud bogging with you and get covered in mud. It's fun to me. But I still am a woman and I still need a man that will love me and protect me and provide for me. And that doesn't make me weaker. That doesn't
No.
make me pathetic. It doesn't make me weak. It doesn't make me vulnerable in the way that like modern women think it does. It actually makes me a lot stronger. I'm much
Right.
stronger with my husband than I am without him. And he has made the good parts of me better and he's helped me work on my weaknesses. And I've done the same thing for him.
Right.
That's what it's supposed to be like. And so when you happen upon a masculine man in today's world, you found a unicorn, you found a diamond, you found a gem, don't react to it like it's scary. Don't be afraid of a man with boundaries or a man who can say no to you when maybe
Right.
you need it, or a man who knows what he's about and wants what he wants, right? Don't look at masculinity as like exploitative, scary, aggressive, or abusive. I freaking hate that word because I feel like we've we've taken away, like, when people actually are abused, it means nothing, because now just men being masculine is abusive.
Right.
That's got to stop. We've got to, like, do something to put the messaging out there to be like, no, men being masculine men in the virtuous sense is good and healthy, and it should be a desired characteristic. It should never be seen as abusive or exploitative for because weak men who just worship at the feet of women cannot keep society going. They can't protect the family, they can't protect the nation, and you end up with the hell world we live in now, where we've got Skittles people everywhere doing crazy stuff all the time.
Right.
And they're in charge of things, and they're running stuff in the government and everything else. So it's
And
like,
the men who worship goddesses lost history to the men who worship patriarchal traditions. It gets back
that's
to the
right.
title of restoring the patriarchy. Is it always ends in delusion and it always ends in chaos. And so, like you were saying, um, it goes both ways. And so a man has to think about what he needs to invest in. And because a woman is more emotional or she's less rational, that's not a reason to mock a woman. That's a reason why you need a woman like
Yeah.
that. If you are more rational and you are more dominant, it goes together. And that's where there's a weird thing. And I've noticed this even in ortho circles, is guys like, oh yeah, I want a girl who I can talk about philosophy with and theology. And it's like, bro, you're wanting to marry
Not
your best
really.
friend, dude. That's not, whether a girl knows theology or not. I could care less, as long as she's now a virtuous Orthodox girl or is willing to be Orthodox. That's an essential quality. Her knowing, being able to tell me why Saint Maximus the Confessor is such a profound take on logos theology. That is not what I'm looking for. That's
Right.
for me and the boys. We can talk. We can bat back and forth and banter about philosophy and theology. A woman needs to excel in her womanly qualities, and a man should not be demeaning a woman because she is more emotional or is more sensitive. That's exactly what you want, because that's going to help balance you, and together you're going to be able to navigate the world better.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll get DMs sometimes where guys will be like, where can I find a chick who's into philosophy and debating and theology like you? And I'm like, first of all, that's not really what you want. I promise. Because it's not, right? Like Andrew will even say, he's like, that's cool, but that's definitely not why I'm with you. Like, it's
Right.
just not. He does, like, 99% of the time he's in voice chat on Discord talking to his bros about that stuff. We have those discussions. We totally do, but that's not why we're together, and that's not why he picked me. And for most dudes, like, honestly, if you did have a girl that was constantly like wanting to debate you on theology, you would get tired of it real fast, I
Right.
promise. But while we're going to talk about one more big question, I'm going to get
Sure.
Patrick's take on the patriarchy. Guys, get your dono chats in, because
Yeah, send
after
in
we,
those dono chats, guys.
yeah,
Send in
hit the
the
dono
super
chat link,
chats. Send us some
and
good
we will take,
questions and topics.
yes, we'll take questions, we'll take comments, and it helps my little baby channel grow.
There
I
we
am
go. Smash
in
that like.
my little makeshift studio here, and I want to upgrade some equipment and stuff if people like the channel, and I'm going to keep doing it. So
Absolutely.
send those in for me.
We
So I
need your
want
voice,
to,
Rachel. You do great work.
thanks. I want to ask you what you think, because this episode is the first episode in kind of like a series I'm doing where I'm
Okay.
going to try to restore the patriarchy as a concept. And I think the word patriarchy as a term has gotten a really bad rap. I think it's been redefined to mean things that it never meant before. And since we are both Orthodox Christians, the study of early church history and the church fathers is called patristics. We have as our ecclesiology patriarchs and patriarchates. So I wanted to ask you, from an Orthodox men's perspective, what you would say the patriarchy is or should be. I know it's a big
What
question.
is the patriarchy? Well, I like to begin with analogies. And so, again, I've talked about how Adam is the first simp, and it's because he turned his back on God and listened to a woman to do something which he knew was against the will of God, right? And that then is just replayed with every simp and every person who then does what's wrong or capitulates to the things that we've talked about, right? Whereas when Adam turns around, when he focuses on God, and the woman then has to follow him, and in a way, he takes the brunt of the world, of the detritus of things moving forward. And so the patriarchy is a hierarchy. The patriarchy is And that's how men sort ourselves out. As I said earlier, men are better judges of other men than women are, because we can naturally tell. And that's why we chastise guys, like we make fun. We see how, because if I can get under your skin and I thought we were friends and I just made a joke and there's maybe a weakness in there. There's something going on. Maybe you got, emotional problems. Definitely not a man that can lead other men. Men want other men that they, that will lead them. And so there are leaders and followers, but every man's called to be the leader of his own house, the leader of his own family. And so the patriarchy really is just a reorientation to the world, and men taking up the responsibility of everything that we've talked about, these traditional gender roles. And so men have to focus on God. And by focusing on God, they correct creation and they allow then those to follow in the right direction. And so that could be the patriarch of your church. That is the patristics of the church fathers. Because why? The men focus on God. The men focus on the boundaries. The men focus on the hierarchy, all hierarchies, all competency hierarchies. And so men have to sort each other out. That provides safe space, right? If we're moving forward in space and time, it's the hierarchy as a sort of pyramid, as a sort of triangle, that then the women and children, as I said, can be inside that patriarchy, and they can be protected, they can be defended, and they don't have to worry about the outside world, the dangers of the outside world, because the patriarchy will take care of that. As we see now, like I said, it really comes back to the analogy of men in the castle walls. The castle walls, in a way, we're moving forward in space and time towards God if men are doing the right thing. And when a man turns around, his back's towards God, he's facing back towards creation. He's not thinking transcendently. He's thinking materially. He's thinking about his own pleasures. This never leads in the right direction. And this always leads towards chaos. This always leads toward the glorification of an inverted sexual dynamic. And so for me, the patriarchy then, it's about, in a way, it's the true safe space, right? Safe space isn't going outside Kroger or, Hobby Lobby. Safe space isn't where people can't misgender you at the university. The safest space is when you're around the most traditionally masculine men who are, again, oriented towards God. And so that again, I want to use the metaphor of like a pyramid. It's like the castle walls, but in a way, a pyramid that's moving forward, because men are constantly sorting themselves out to more and more competency. And that's why even the church has a hierarchy: bishops, patriarchs, metropolitans. It's the way that creation is. It's the way that God structured the world. And, deciding that I'm going to become a competent man, and I'm going to figure out where I place myself in that competency hierarchy and that patriarchal line of men around the world and through history. That's my job. And that's what's only going to allow me to be respected by my wife. And I'm going to be able to lead them, because metaphorically, then, even within my own family, I am that pyramid. I am that space in which they can inhabit that interior position, and the children can grow up. I can protect their innocence. The women can nurture them. They can care for the children. They can, be in charge of the household. I mean, do all that stuff. And that's where I think most men are fine with a woman, in a way, being, the house is your domain. The way in which we order our family, that's my domain. That's how I take my role, and that's how I structure things. And so for me, that is the patriarchy. It plays itself out in the way we understand God. It plays itself out in the way that we understand society. It plays itself out in the way we understand the church, and it plays itself out in the way we structure our families.
Yes, I 100% agree. I think that's a really fantastic description and a perfect way to kind of start this series and get like a good groundwork for it. Because I know that me as a woman, like, when people say anything, it's so hard having your husband be like an internet guy, because they're going to say mean things about him. That that's just the nature of the internet. And I get so mad because I'm like, you have no idea what this man has done for me over the last 15 years, for our children, to make it possible for me to be a good mom. If I was having to focus on career and work 40, 50-hour weeks and commute and be on conference calls with my boss all the time and worried about my career and dropping them off at a daycare and not be able to stay home with them if they're sick and all these other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I would have never became the mom and the person that I am. I wouldn't be able to be myself in the way that I am now without him making that possible. And I
Right.
think so many women get sucked into that where they're trying to be career women and trying to have a family, and they're finding it super impossible, and it just makes them feel like something's wrong with them, or something's wrong with their husband, or something's wrong with society. And it's like, no, uh all I wanted when I had my first daughter was to be able to be her mom. I thought it was like really messed up that I had to try to be focused on work or making money, and like, how can I do that? Because kids are a 24/7 thing. When you
Right.
have your first baby, anybody who's got kids in the chat, that that's your 24/7 job, especially like if you're nursing. That's incredibly hard to do while you're working. Yes, you can pump and you can do all these things, but you need the actual bonding time, and you need to be with your child. Motherhood is not a part-time nights and weekends thing that you can do on the side as a hobby. It should be your full-time occupation. You deserve that, and your children deserve that, and men are what provide us with that opportunity. And we have just destroyed that. We've completely taken that away and destroyed it for so many people. And a big part of what I'm trying to do here, and why I say we should restore patriarchy, is because, as Patrick said, it is a virtuous thing. Patriarchy is, like Patrick said, he couldn't have said it better, men who are oriented toward God, leading, providing, and protecting so that the women can do what the women should do, and the children can grow up safe, and that things are in their proper place. And it works for everyone. It works for society. It works for the nation. And everyone is then more oriented toward God.
Mm-hmm.
If everyone in the home has to be career oriented, then no one is oriented toward God. And that's where we find ourselves right now. So
Yep.
that's a big part of why I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to take the term patriarchy and give it back its proper meaning, and take away all the shame and like lies that have been put on it, because
Right.
what Patrick just described is a wonderful thing. And if almost every woman out there heard it, they would say that's what they want. I mean, unless they've been programmed to the point that it's like they're just purposefully being contrarian to it, right?
Right.
But
And
generally, that's really what most women would prefer. And I know this because I get that feedback all the time. I get it all the time from women. So I
And
want
it's
to
an
thank you.
opportunity for us to be Christ-like in that self-sacrifice. So as you talked about, one of the things that you know about Andrew that other people don't know is about all the sacrifices that he had, all the work that he had to do, all the times that he had to go try to provide or work certain jobs or work multiple, whatever. I don't even know
Yeah,
the context, but you do. And that is him occupying that, carrying your own cross as a Christian, and it being Christ-like in that self-sacrifice. And that's what a man's called to do. And that's why every man is willing to give up his life. If again, I always say this, if you go watch the YouTube channel Kings and Generals and you learn about the history of battles and kingdoms and empires, most men died in battle. But why? Because there's nothing more glorious than to die for what you believe in and what you protect and what you care for. So a lot of those guys, especially the higher commanders, they would get women pregnant. They'd be probably in their mid-20s. They would make sure that they have a few kids, and now they're ready to go to battle, and they're okay if they die because they've already established their lineage and they're protecting their society. And so, as a man, what are you willing to die for? You really, and honestly, the thing that you're willing to die for should be the most glorious way out of this. And
yeah,
if that's not God's providence for you, then wonderful, you can die from old age like St. John
yeah,
the theologian. But if not, it's your martyrdom, and therefore you get a golden ticket to the kingdom. And so realize that this is your opportunity to find meaning in your life, to take on that cross and carry it, and that you are going to be the self-sacrificial entity for the family. And no matter what happens, you're going to lead. And if a burglar breaks in, you're not going to tell your wife to go check what that is. You're going to get up. If it is, five gang members and they got guns and they kill, that's your responsibility. That's your way out. If it's the nation state, if it's your count, whatever it is, And men just don't think that way. But if they did, that again restores the patriarchy. It restores the correct order of society.
Yes. And women have their own ascetic path. Motherhood is not easy. Uh, there's a chance you could die in labor. It's very low now, but historically it was higher. And motherhood is self-sacrifice for life. So even after your kids grow up and they're moved out, you never stop being a mom. Like
Yep.
the actual raising of the children may be over, but you're still a mother. And it's both people have their sacrifice that they have to make, but I just want to encourage women to realize that men, real men, good, masculine, virtuous men, are willing to give their lives for their women and for their children and for their community and their country. And they deserve respect because of that. And like we said earlier, women want affection and attention, but men need respect. If you are married or you're in a relationship with someone you believe is a good man, respect is the number one thing he needs from you to keep
Yeah.
going, to get up every day and go sacrifice, to get up every day and go work hard, to forego like pleasures he would normally maybe have for himself, things he might buy for himself or do for himself to provide for his wife and kids.
Yep.
He needs your respect more than anything. So when your man lays down some kind of a boundary, even if at first your knee-jerk reaction is to get sassy with him, really really train yourself for that no longer to be the knee-jerk reaction and for you to be everybody hates the word submissive. Okay. It's another word that has been bastardized and ruined. Submissive doesn't mean you're a slave. It doesn't mean you're in an abusive relationship. It doesn't mean he can punch you in the face if you overcook the roast, right? Like, let's all stop being ridiculous. It
Right.
means, okay, I have respect for you as the provider and protector. Therefore, I submit to your judgment on this matter, even though, like, my instinct is to disagree. I respect your authority and your status, and I'm going to not give you hell over it, right? You don't
Right.
always have to agree and be like, whatever you say, my lord. You don't have to do that, but don't give the man hell. Don't give the man grief over every little thing when he's trying to keep some order, right? That's his job, and that's what he has to do. It's not abusing you, he's not trying to control you. Yes, there are bad men who will do that, but I'm going to assume that you have good judgment, at least to some degree, and that if you're married or considering getting married to a man, you have enough trust and faith in him as a human being and in his judgment that giving him hell over everything you disagree with doesn't make sense, and it's just going to ruin everything. Trust
Yep.
me, there might be times where you do have to pick your battles and be like, please reconsider. I would like to talk about this thing with you. And I would, I want you to understand where I'm coming from. That's all fine. But it's the hard-headed obstinance that we've trained women to do that is destroying families. And
Yep.
it's when you have kids involved, especially, it is not worth it in 99% of cases. And I've talked to a lot of divorced women, and almost all of them, outside of an actual abusive situation, when you talk to them and you get them to open up, they will tell you, like, yeah, if I could go back and not pick that fight, I would. If I could go back and I knew what I knew now, I would do it differently, and I would keep my marriage and my family together because it really wasn't worth it. So
Right.
if you have a good man, defer to your good man, trust in him, have respect for him, and just try not to give him total hell all the time. And most men are very happy with just that, right?
Glory to God. I couldn't
Yeah.
agree more.
So let's see if we got any questions or comments here.
All
Okay.
right.
Casey Bear sent me $5. She said, support for your brand new baby channel. Thank you, Casey Bear. She's a Crucible regular. She's a Jim Bob regular. She's a super supportive little chatter there, and we love Casey Bear.
Thank you, Casey
Amptown
Bear.
1. We should not be surprised.
Oh,
that
shout out to Amp. I
Amptown
know her.
1
She goes to my church. So Amptown
Yeah.
1, she is a wonderful soul. I want to see you at church this Sunday. I'll be there. Looking forward to giving you a hug and saying hi as always.
Well, Amptown 1 sent me $4, and she said, I wish I had a good question for you guys, but I love when you guys talk. It's like everything you're both saying is a truth bomb. Thank you so much, Amptown 1. We appreciate that. And then Joseph Newton sent me a $20 super chat. Thank you so much. He did
Nice.
not put in a
Thank you,
message.
Joseph.
he must watch The Crucible, and he must know that Andrew's favorite super chats are the ones that say nothing at all.
Yeah,
He says that all the time. It's like a joke, but
I
it's
know.
stuck. So thank you so much, Joseph Newton. I really, really appreciate that. That's so amazing of you. Thank you so much. And then 2.2 acres and a koala bear sent $6.77, and he said a couple nickels for your new little channel. So big shout out to all you guys who sent me a little dono chat. I really, really appreciate it. I'm super shocked at how fast my baby channel is growing, and I just need more watch hours basically, and I can probably monetize it. But until then, this dono chat kind of keeps it going for me, and I really, really appreciate you guys for doing that. And if you're watching the stream later, the dono chat link is in the description. You can send me a tip on there anytime you want. So if you're watching it later and you send me a tip and you have a question or a comment, I will read it on the next stream. So just keep that in mind. Well, thank you so much, Patrick, for coming on. You're such a great guest, and I love doing streams with you, and we always have a great time talking about this sort of stuff. And there's nobody better I could have started this series about patriarchy and masculinity with other than you. So thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you for having me, Rachel. Again, God bless you guys. I love you and Andrew and the family. Wish you guys nothing but the best, and I truly appreciate all you and your friendships.
Yeah, and I've got a bunch of cool streams coming up, you guys. If you see in my community section, I will be interviewing my grandmother, who is turning 97 in like 6 weeks. She will be 97 years old, and she still has her wits about her, and she still remembers everything from her 97 years. And what a crazy 97 years.
That's going to be a great stream. So much insight.
Yeah, so I'm going to interview her, and in the comments of the community tab, put any questions. If you want to ask somebody who was born in 1926 what it was like to live through the Great Depression, World War I, or World War II, Vietnam, the 50s, and then all of this crazy madness of the last 40 years that I've been alive.
She'd have a great perspective on the 50s because she would have been an adult. I assume she probably would have been married in the 50s.
Yeah, she got married right at World War II, like at the beginning of World War II. So she's got some great perspective, and she's a big reason why I'm here and why I'm the way I am. She was a huge influence on me growing up. So I thought, what a great thing to get like something on camera, video recorded for like my grandkids to watch and for all of you to watch and people in the future to watch and see like what is her perspective after 97 years of crazy, like American life from 1926 to 2023. Holy cow. That's a lot of change and a lot of crazy stuff that happened. So if you have questions for her, head over to my community section and put them in there, and I will ask her all the best questions from that. And you guys will see that here soon. We're going to have more homeschool streams. We're going to have more streams about the patriarchy, and we're going to do some fun crypto history, conspiracy theory kind of stuff from the research that I do too. So I got a lot of cool ideas coming up, and I hope you will all like, share, and subscribe and come back and see my future streams. And thank you again, Patrick, for coming. It was a fantastic stream.
Thank you. God bless you guys.
Thanks so much, and we will see you next time.